Chapter 58. If you were the sect leader, what would you do? 7th Order Spirit Tree. This is the grade of the green vine tree. How could the Supreme Sect have a spirit tree comparable to the holy tree of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion? Could it be that the green vine tree in the 8 scenic caves isn't a true holy tree or hasn't fully matured yet? Guwen was immediately excited. He couldn't refuse such a treasure. Leaving the holy maiden, how difficult could it be? Doesn't she like to read? Write her an epilogue of the investiture of the gods. When will the holy maiden arrive? Guwen took a deep breath and asked. He didn't show the joy in his heart. Instead, he pretended to be worried and deep in thought. Elder Guzong laughed and said, "She will be here within a year at most. You don't need to feel pressured." Gu Yu teased from the side, "Don't worry about being asked to pledge yourself to her. The cultivation gap is obvious. She just likes your books." Guwen nodded. He wasn't that narcissistic. There were many people in the world who liked the investiture of the gods. Elder Guzong looked at Elder Tian standing nearby and asked, "How have you been here?" Elder Tian nodded and said, "Pretty good. The Valley Master treats me well." Guwen felt helpless. Elder Guzong had brought in a distant relative. Was he afraid Guwen wouldn't suspect anything? No way. If you're going to play along, do it thoroughly. Guwen looked at Elder Guzong and hesitated to speak. Elder Guzong seemed to notice his confusion and laughed. "He has long known your identity as Panin. It's because he likes the investiture of the gods that I allowed him to come here. Besides him, only the Hall of Elders knows. Don't worry. We are more afraid of your identity being exposed than you are." Before the investiture of the gods appeared, disciples had always written books. But the impact that Pan brought was unprecedented. No one had thought that books could bring more disciples, cultivation resources, and even assist the sect in diplomatic relations with other powers. Especially after the Supreme Immortal Venerable was published, the entire world's eyes were on the Supreme Sect. Standing at a high position, Elder Guzong could see the clearest. Guwen breathed a sigh of relief. Guyu suddenly said, "Zhou Tongyu treats Guyu quite well. I take back what I said before. Don't let Guyu bully him." Guwen looked at him with a strange expression. Elder Guzong laughed. "My image is not bad either. No matter where I go, I can hear people mentioning my name, asking when I will return to deal with those evildoers for my son." Cough cough, revealing it early would spoil the suspense. True. Guwen changed the topic and inquired about the holy maiden of the Daotian sect. He had to gather as much information as possible to better face the holy maiden. Elder Guzong began to introduce the holy maiden. Shenzhen, with 3 spirit roots, is the youngest daughter of the sect hierarch of the Daotian sect. Her talent isn't top-notch, but her understanding of musical spells is exceptionally high, and she loves the arts like playing musical instruments, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Just based on the introduction, Guwen felt that Shenzhen's personality wasn't strong. If she liked the arts, she should have a good temperament. Late at night, in the 8 scenic caves. Under the green vine tree, Guwen was practicing swordsmanship, specifically the wood spirit sword technique. The wood spirit sword technique was a sword technique that Zwolin had taught Guwen to test his depth. Although it wasn't rare, it could be bought in the outer gate city. Since it was of the wood attribute, Guwen decided to practice it himself and not invest his lifespan into it. However, isn't real-world time also lifespan? With his extraordinary Taitsong divine shocking swordsmanship achievement and his current top-grade 5 elements heavenly spirit root, Guwen found a sense of genius in the wood spirit sword technique. He had already mastered the wood spirit sword technique and was now pursuing a higher realm. Every cultivation technique, spell, and ultimate skill had minor realms. According to his summary, from low to high, they were novice, initial insight, basic mastery, slight achievement, thorough comprehension, mastery, peak perfection, and returning to simplicity. It felt like leveling up in a game, which Guwen found very interesting. The one Zhonglong sky dragon watched Guwen's sword practice from the tree. Now, it had the majesty of a true dragon. Guwen moved within a 3-zhang radius under the tree, creating afterimages. It seemed like nearly 10 of him were practicing swordsmanship. The heavenly resident's sword in his hand was extremely sharp, and strength energy radiated. This energy dissipated once it reached Qinghong away, not harming the surrounding flora. After practicing for an ancient hour, Guan finally stopped. Clang! The heavenly resident's sword returned to its sheath, emitting a clear sound like a dragon's hum. He put the heavenly resident's sword into his storage bag, then stretched lazily. The sky dragon descended from the sky and spoke in a childish voice. "Master, you're amazing. Can you teach me?" Guan looked at it and jokingly asked, "Can your dragon claws hold a sword?" "Using my claws as swords, can't I?" The sky dragon blinked its eyes and asked. Guan was stunned for a moment. "There's something there." He immediately took out the wood spirit sword technique manual he had drawn from his storage bag and tossed it to the sky dragon, saying, "Then practice by yourself. If you don't understand something when I return, you can ask me." The sky dragon grabbed the manual with its claws and quickly said, "Don't forget to bring me roasted chicken." Guan nodded with a smile and then turned to leave. The sky dragon landed, placed the manual on the ground, and started flipping through it with its claws. After leaving the 8 scenic caves, Guan walked into the mountain forest. Under the night sky, the forest was covered in snow, but he didn't leave any footprints. Early the next morning, after accompanying the disciples in their exercises, Guan was about to head to the 3rd Medicine Valley when Yilan arrived. Since his junior sister had come, Guan naturally had to accompany her. The two went into the pavilion to chat. Guan first asked about her recent situation. Even if she was busy, she would visit Guan every year. It was impossible for Guan not to be moved by this. Starting from last year, disciples from the outer sect have often gone missing. Our law enforcement hall has investigated but couldn't find the real culprit. However, the Demon Extermination Hall always finds demon path spies who confess to the crimes. Yilan sighed. After the sect leader changed, she and Lu Jiojia no longer contacted each other. Mainly, the two halls didn't get along, being like water and fire. Guan laughed and said, "Then let the Demon Extermination Hall catch them. It will give you more time to cultivate." Yilan shook her head and said, "It's not that simple. The hall master of the Demon Extermination Hall wants to merge with the Law Enforcement Hall, and the outer sect's great elder seems to have the same intention. If our hall doesn't perform, we will eventually be disbanded." "It doesn't matter. If you get disbanded, come back. The elixirs I can provide are no less than the Law Enforcement Hall's benefits." "That's not acceptable. If you give them to me, what will you do?" Yilan directly refused with a serious expression. Seeing this, Guan didn't say more and changed the topic to other matters. Since Yilan wanted to stay a few more days, Guan decided to stay in the Mystic Valley until after the Spring Festival. After the Spring Festival, the winter's snow completely melted. Guan first went to Tianya Valley to harvest thousands of years of lifespan, then replanted. After spending 2 days there, he went to the 3rd Medicine Valley. The Mystic Valley was crowded, and Tianya Valley had 3 monkey demons, so it wasn't lonely. But the 3rd Medicine Valley was different. Every time Guan came, it was deathly silent. Yi Yen and Elder Tian both enjoyed this quietness, not disturbing each other. Guan walked into a garden area and began harvesting mature medicinal herbs. Elder Tian came over and curiously asked, "Why do you always pick the herbs yourself?" Guan replied, "I have to do some work. And when I personally pick and package them, it gives me a sense of contributing to the sect." Upon hearing this, Elder Tian laughed, "You are indeed contributing, not just self-satisfying." "I hope the higher-ups think the same." Guan laughed lightly as he harvested. Elder Tian suddenly asked, "If you were made sect leader, what would you do?" Guan's heart skipped a beat, but his actions didn't falter. He said annoyed, "Stop thinking about it. You're not the sect leader, and you can't pass it to me. Besides, I can only manage the Medicine Valley, not the millions of disciples in the Supreme Sect. With my current cultivation level, who would respect me as the sect leader?" He didn't want to be the sect leader. He wanted to cultivate in peace, not face pressure. If he became the sect leader, he couldn't escape if he encountered an invincible enemy. Guan wasn't loyal enough to lay down his life for the Supreme Sect. Elder Tian chuckled and stopped pressing the issue. After Guan finished harvesting, they both walked towards the pavilion. I actually know an incredible cultivation technique. Do you want to learn it? Even Elder Guzong doesn't know about it, Elder Tian suddenly asked. I don't want to learn. Isn't writing books better? You know I don't cultivate much, relying on elixirs to progress. You're still young, why are you don't understand? This is called enjoying life. I like to go with the flow. Of course, that's just me, everyone has different pursuits. Guan said casually. Why was this old fellow talking so much today? Trying to ruin my Taoist heart? Elder Tian wanted to continue, but suddenly there was a sound from the sky. The two turned to look and saw Elder Guzong flying over on a magic artifact, with a woman in black standing behind him, her face covered by a veil, revealing only her bright, enchanting eyes. The holy maiden of the Dao Tian sect had arrived? Guan asked Elder Tian to take the herbs inside while he went to greet Elder Guzong and the woman. He cast a life-span detection. Shenzhen, Core Formation Realm 2nd Layer 78/660/1050. After landing, Elder Guzong laughed and said, Guan, this is the holy maiden of the Dao Tian sect, Shenzhen. You must entertain her well. He turned to face Shenzhen. She raised her hand to salute him. He nodded and quickly left on his golden wheel. Shenzhen looked at Guan with her bright eyes, carefully examining him. Just by her eyes, one could imagine she was a rare beauty. Guan raised his hand in greeting and said, I am Guan, greetings, Miss Shen. Shenzhen nodded slightly and curiously asked, which do you prefer, investiture of the gods or supreme immortal venerable? Testing me right from the start? Guan's expression remained unchanged. I like both. People can't just like one book. Different moods lead to wanting to read different books, don't you agree? Shenzhen's eyes lit up. I actually wrote a book too. Would you like to read it? Shenzhen blinked her eyes and asked. Guan naturally didn't refuse. Shall we look at it upstairs? Shenzhen nodded and followed Guan to the second floor of the pavilion. Guan wanted to leave the door open, as it could be awkward being a man and a woman alone in a room. But Shenzhen closed the door. They sat at a table, and Shenzhen took out a book from her storage bag. Her brows furrowed as if hesitating. After some thought, she handed the book to Guan. When Guan took it and saw the title, his eyelid twitched. Black Hero's Travelogue? What the heck? Chapter 59. The Great Demon Catastrophe. That book title is not proper at all. Guan suddenly dared not open the book, fearing that the author of Green Hero's Travelogue might be Shenzhen. Then his admiration for the author would be shattered. But no, Shenzhen was from the Dao Tian sect of the Great Yu dynasty. How could she possibly publish a book in the Supreme Sect? Having thought it through, Guan calmed himself and began to read Black Hero's Travelogue. Shenzhen lowered her gaze to the table, her ears slightly red through her long hair. After finishing the first page, Guan let out a sigh of relief. She was not the author of Green Hero's Travelogue. The difference was clear between her writing and that of Green Hero's Travelogue, but it was evident she was indeed imitating it. He patiently read on. Every story in Green Hero's Travelogue began with the local landscape, first depicting the scenery, then the interactions between people. Black Hero's Travelogue followed the same format. However, Shenzhen's experience was clearly not as rich as that of the author of Green Hero's Travelogue. The description of the mountains and rivers in her book seemed lacking, at least in Guan's eyes. It didn't have the vivid imagery of Green Hero's Travelogue. The room fell silent. Later on, Shenzhen got up and went to look at the bookshelf beside her. After nearly an hour, Guan finally closed Black Hero's Travelogue. Shenzhen, holding a book, turned around and asked, How was it? Guan asked, Do you like Green Hero's Travelogue? Standing by the bookshelf, Shenzhen nodded slightly and said, Besides cultivation techniques, the first book I ever read was Green Hero's Travelogue, but my favorite is still your Supreme Immortal Venerable. Alright, it was indeed quite conventional, but it was sincere. Guan smiled and said, Actually, I really like Green Hero's Travelogue too. It was because of reading it that I couldn't resist picking up a pen myself. Shenzhen immediately walked over, obviously more excited than before, her eyes sparkling as she began to discuss Green Hero's Travelogue with Guan. Although her Black Hero's Travelogue also had romantic elements, they weren't as explicit as those in Green Hero's Travelogue, making it a more conventional book. Their relationship quickly grew closer through their shared love of Green Hero's Travelogue. From Green Hero's Travelogue, their conversation moved to Investiture of the Gods, and then to Supreme Immortal Venerable. After a long time, Guan couldn't help but ask, "Have you ever met the author of Green Hero's Travelogue?" Shenzhen shook her head slightly and said, "Although I really like his Green Hero's Travelogue, I feel he is not very proper, and I don't wish to meet him." You are different. From Investiture of the Gods to Supreme Immortal Venerable, your styles are so varied that I am very curious about you. Guan felt a little regretful upon hearing this. Who exactly was Green Hero? This was his greatest curiosity within the Supreme Sect. After writing Supreme Immortal Venerable, will you continue to write about Taoist tradition conflicts similar to Investiture of the Gods? Shenzhen asked, looking at Guan. Guan gave an ambiguous answer, probably. What about you, Miss Shin? Will you be staying in the Supreme Sect? Shenzhen smiled and said, "Is the Supreme Sect giving you pressure? Actually, we just need a nominal alliance. The Daotian sect also needs to ally with the Supreme Sect to deter other sects within the Great Yu dynasty and to face the Great Demon Catastrophe together." Guan raised an eyebrow and asked, "What is this Great Demon Catastrophe?" On this continent, there are 9 adjacent dynasties, including Taizong and Great Yu. The 9 dynasties have expelled powerful demons, turning the regions outside the 9 dynasties into places overrun by demons. Now, the demons outside have become powerful enough to threaten the 9 dynasties. Even though various immortal cultivation sects often send disciples to exterminate demons, the vast regions outside always have some exceptionally talented demons that grow. Within 100 years, the 9 dynasties will face a demonic catastrophe not seen in thousands of years, during which dynasties will inevitably fall. As Shenzhen spoke of this, her eyes were full of gravity. Guan felt a sense of pressure assailing him upon hearing this. He had already imagined the scene of mountains and rivers shattering, the Supreme Sect struggling to hold the front lines, and forcibly conscripting servant disciples to the battlefield. No way. Within 100 years, he had to extend his lifespan to 1,000,000 years and unlock the next function to rapidly boost his cultivation level. Guan thought to himself, and then asked, "If that's the case, why don't you focus on cultivation instead of writing books?" Shenzhen was not as talented as Ji Xiaoyu or Zhou Tongyu, nor even Li Ye, but her aptitude was not bad, and she had the backing of the Daotian sect. As long as she was willing to cultivate, she surely could advance further. Upon hearing this, Shenzhen chuckled and said, "Everyone has their own destiny. Cultivation is not my destiny. I prefer reading and writing. What if someday I gain enlightenment from books? Who says you must absorb nature's spiritual energy to gain enlightenment? Throughout all the books I've read, it seems no energy absorption cultivator has lived until the present." Guan couldn't help but look at her differently. She really dared to think big. After chatting for a while, Shenzhen prepared to leave and Guan stood up to see her off. When they got downstairs, she summoned a flying sword, leaped onto it, and left a parting remark as she flew towards the horizon. "Young Master Gu, I will set my cave residence nearby. Let's communicate more in the future." Watching her departing figure, a smile spread across Gu En's face. He was not happy that Shenzhen was going to live nearby, but rather that the 7th grade spirit tree had been secured. The Supreme Sect acted quickly, and within 3 days of Shenzhen's departure, the sapling of the 7th grade spirit tree arrived, personally delivered by Guzong. After Guzong left, Guan carried the sapling of the 7th grade spirit tree to the central area of the compound. Though called a sapling, the tree was already 3 meters tall. Guan planted it on the grass connecting the 4 segments of the park, with Elder Tian and Yen watching from behind. After planting it, Guan looked at the tree with a beaming smile on his face. "Mystic pure tree, 7th grade 48/8999/65,000, a limited lifespan of 65,000 years, beyond compare for mortals. Elder Tian chuckled and said, "The mystic pure tree is extraordinary. Though it doesn't bear fruit, cultivating beneath it can calm the mind and refresh the spirit." Gu En's smile grew even brighter upon hearing this. He said, "Elder Tian, you must take good care of the mystic pure tree and ensure no harm comes to it. Don't worry, since it's rooted, its life force is stronger than my old bones." Hearing Elder Tian's words, Gu En shook his head and laughed. This old man had a bit of humor in himself. Then, Gu En turned and left. Elder Tian and Yen stayed by the tree, chatting leisurely, and did not follow him. Gu En made his way to the edge of the Medicine Valley near the mountain wall. In this grassy area, a tree had been planted, though it showed no signs of growth yet. It was the root of the 6th grade human face tree that Yi Lan had previously given him. This tree root had been buried for several years, still in a state of revival with its age at 0. Gu En had tried to help it with his own would attribute spiritual power, but it was like a bottomless pit, absorbing his spiritual power without any noticeable effect. He squatted in front of the root of the human face tree, which had only a wooden tip protruding from the soil. After watching it for a while, Gu En suddenly felt a faint flow of spiritual energy from the ground towards the human face tree. Tracing the source, it came from the mystic pure tree. Could the mystic pure tree help the human face tree revive? Gu En was delighted by this thought, but also a bit worried that the human face tree might drain the mystic pure tree. After all, this thing came from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, a name with somewhat ominous connotations. If the human face tree turned out to be an evil entity upon growing, Gu En would uproot it. He couldn't allow it to destroy the 3rd Medicine Valley. Gu En felt someone needed to keep an eye on it to prevent it from growing secretly. Yi Yen had reached the 8th floor of the energy cultivation realm, his cultivation level mainly relying on elixirs. He practiced his spear technique daily, but while this also involved absorbing nature's spiritual energy, it didn't significantly boost his cultivation. Once he left, it would be time to recruit some people. Just after the height of summer, the 43-year-old Gu En arrived at the outer gate city. First, he submitted his manuscript, then wandered around the streets. He noticed that the outer gate city was not as bustling as before, with many disciples still passing through the streets, but most of them wore solemn expressions and spoke in hushed tones. Looking up, Gu En saw 4 disciples from the Demon Extermination Hall descend from the sky, landing in front of a pavilion in the distance. They surrounded a disciple who had just exited the building and began questioning him. The disciple appeared quite annoyed, and a verbal clash ensued, leading to a fight. When one of the Demon Extermination Hall disciples displayed a token, the disciple backed down and obediently allowed them to take him away. After capturing demonic cultivator spies for so many years, haven't they caught them all yet? Gu En frowned, feeling puzzled but having no intention of intervening. As long as they didn't target him, he was fine. He headed towards the Beast Hall, planning to raise a few demon beasts in the 3rd Medicine Valley so that Elder Tian wouldn't feel lonely. Elder Tian had been diligent and had earned Gu En's favor. He now truly regarded Elder Tian as his own servant disciple. After an hour, Gu En walked out of the Beast Hall's gate, 3 bags hanging from his waist. These were beast control bags, each containing a live creature, but one bag could only hold 1 demon beast. Just as he stepped outside, he coincidentally ran into Lu Jiujia. This time, Lu Jiujia was alone. As he approached the Beast Hall, his face was gloomy, but upon seeing Gu En, he immediately smiled and quickened his pace. "Senior brother, are you here to buy demon beasts?" Lu Jiujia asked warmly, though his face was paler than before, with a hint of malevolence between his brows, exuding a sinister aura. Gu En nodded, asking with concern, "You don't look well. Is everything all right?" "What could be wrong? I've just been too tired from training lately." Lu Jiujia shook his head. Gu En noticed a trace of demonic qi in his body, very subtle and hard to detect if not looked at closely. Had this guy become a demon cultivator? Since Lu Jiujia was unwilling to say more, Gu En naturally didn't press further. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Lu Jiujia reminded him before parting, "Senior brother, Avoid going out at night. Recently, there have been powerful demon cultivators infiltrating the outer gate. With that, he turned and left. Watching his retreating figure, Guin didn't think much of it and headed back towards the third Medicine Valley. Once he arrived at the third Medicine Valley, he released the 3 spirit dogs he had just bought. All 3 had second-grade demon beast bloodlines, making them quite expensive. They'll be staying in the Mystic Valley for a while, so you take care of them. Guin instructed Elder Tian. Elder Tian nodded, and Guin turned towards the transmission array platform. Whether it was an illusion or not, Guin noticed that Elder Tian's gaze towards him seemed filled with concern. Before he could ponder it further, the formation activated, bringing him to the Mystic Valley. As soon as he arrived at the Mystic Valley, Guin felt a familiar presence. He stepped down from the array platform and looked towards the distance, seeing Leah instructing disciples on sword practice, with even Xiaochuan participating. After giving some instructions, Leah turned and headed towards Guin. When they met, Guin asked curiously, "What brings you here?" Core Formation Realm, First Layer. Reaching the Core Formation Realm at 45, just 5 years behind Jiang Qiong. Leah smiled lightly and said, "I came here to protect you. I heard that the Demon Lord from the Heavenly Extinction Sect has infiltrated the outer gate, and I was worried about you. I plan to go to the inner sect only after this matter is resolved." Chapter 60, Ancestor Save Me. "Can you handle that Demon Lord?" Guin asked suspiciously. Leah laughed triumphantly. "I have already reached the core formation stage, don't underestimate me. In the Supreme Sect, the core formation realm is just an inner sect disciple. Can you really match up to the Demon Lord? You brat, I came here specifically to protect you, and you're still complaining? I'm afraid it'll be like that time when you charged out to deal with the demon of greed and got injured and fell. Can we not bring that up?" The two started bickering, but Guin wasn't really angry. Leah could feel that Guin's concern was out of a good heart, not wanting to burden him. Little did he know that Guin wasn't worried about being a burden, but about being a hindrance. "Brother, if the Demon Lord comes and you're by my side, I won't be able to act." Guin couldn't express his true thoughts, and since Leah insisted on staying, he had to let it be. "By the way, have you seen junior brother Lu recently?" Guin asked. Leah shook his head. "I haven't seen him. I used to run into him, but he joined the Demon Extermination Hall, and I don't get along with the elders there, so we haven't kept in touch." Talking about this, his expression turned indifferent. He didn't care about Lu Jijia at all. Though he was warm to Guin, he was actually very cold to everyone else. "Let's go upstairs and have a proper chat. I heard you acquired another Medicine Valley. Tell me all about it." Leah pulled Guin upstairs. They chatted late into the night. Guin didn't reveal his identity as Pan but instead told Leah that the harvest from Mystic Valley had pleased their superiors, hence he was given another Medicine Valley. Considering that Li Xiandao was criticized for the investiture of the gods, how dare Guin reveal his identity to Leah? What if Leah let it slip? After all, they were father and son. No matter how big the conflict, before a complete break, their relationship would still be closer than with Guin. As summer transitioned to autumn, the temperature was still quite hot. 10 days had passed since Leah came, and Mystic Valley hadn't encountered any danger during this time. Guin even went out to manage the caves of the outer sect disciples, with Leah insisting on accompanying him. However, upon reaching the caves, he didn't go inside, fearing he might trouble Guin wanted Leah to stay in Mystic Valley to protect the disciples, but Leah didn't care about anyone else. As he said, teaching swordsmanship to those disciples was already a favor to Guin. That evening, Guin was picking ripe medicinal herbs, while Leah was meditating at the mountain peak on the west. The setting sun hung just above his head, giving him the aura of an unrivaled master. Suddenly, Guin sensed something, his right hand paused, and then he continued picking the herbs. "There really is a Demon Lord. I hope he doesn't eye my Medicine Valley." Guin thought silently. The opponent's aura far exceeded the Foundation Establishment realm but did not pose a threat to his perception. The faint demonic aura began to drift away from Mystic Valley, which relieved him. Compared to gaining a few decades of lifespan from killing someone, he was more afraid of exposing his strength. As night fell, Guan was inside the house reading the Ziwei Array Chronicles, absorbed in the formations related to the wood attribute. His brows suddenly furrowed, followed by a sigh. Mystic Valley wasn't attracting trouble, but Leah drew the attention of the Demon Lord. On the mountain peak, Leah, who was meditating and absorbing energy, suddenly opened his eyes. He stood up and walked to the edge of the cliff, looking down at the forest below. About 100 feet away from his mountain, a mysterious figure like a ghost stood under a tree, gazing at him from afar. Under the moonlight, the mysterious figure almost blended into the darkness, visible only when close. Leah frowned, raised his hand pointing afar, and then leaped into the night sky. The mysterious figure turned into black mist and vanished without a trace. A stick of incense later, Leah landed beside a river in the mountains. This river flowed through the hills, about 2 yards wide, shimmering under the moonlight. As soon as he landed, a mass of black mist appeared out of thin air on the meadow across the river, forming into a human figure. Leah asked, "You're not the Demon Lord of the Heavenly Extinction Sect. You seem to know me?" The mysterious figure responded in a hoarse voice, "Prince Leah, inheritor of Jizh's first sword cultivator's divinity transformation sword intent, meeting you is quite a pleasant surprise." Leah drew the treasure sword from his waist, pointing it at the shadow in the distance, playing tricks. As his voice fell, his body erupted with violent sword chi, causing his black robe to flutter like flames. 7 silver sword shadows swiftly formed around him, shining brightly under the night sky. "You dare defy me, a core formation stage?" The mysterious figure snickered disdainfully. He again turned into demonic chi and vanished, reappearing behind Leah almost instantly. Leah's pupils contracted. He leaped up, turning his body to slash backward. The 7 silver sword shadows swiftly shot towards the mysterious figure. Boom! Boom! The silver sword shadows hit the ground one after another, stirring up billowing dust, causing nearby trees to shake violently. Leah, still in midair, hadn't seen whether the mysterious figure was hit when a strong wind swept past, sending him flying horizontally. Leah plummeted into the forest like an arrow, crashing through trees for several hundred feet before he finally came to a stop. As the dust settled, Leah, covered in blood, leaned against a tree trunk, which was filled with cracks and still trembling. The mysterious figure appeared in midair, looking down at Leah. "Boy, having just reached the core formation stage, you dare to oppose me? Do you know my realm?" Leah struggled to raise his head, seeing his vision stained with blood. "Damn it!" Leah gritted his teeth, trying hard to stand up but to no avail. "Sigh, why do you always get hurt, boy? You're not just risking your own life, you're putting your ancestor's life in danger too." An aged voice sounded in Leah's mind, full of helplessness. The mysterious figure raised his right hand, aiming at Leah from a distance, surrounded by demonic chi and shrouded in darkness, not revealing his true face. Just as he was about to speak, a hand engulfed in demonic chi pressed on his shoulder, making him freeze entirely. In an instant, branches sprouted from his body, mixed with blood, blooming like a flower in the air. The demonic chi dispersed, revealing a middle-aged man, his outer sect elder robes pierced by branches, his ferocious face showing an expression of disbelief. He turned his head, catching a glimpse of a purple-black figure standing behind him. "Demon Shadow Divine Skill? You." The middle-aged man trembled. Leah's eyes widened angrily. "Elder Qin, why is it you?" Before Elder Qin could respond, the storage bag at his waist was taken by the person behind him. Immediately, the branches on his body ignited with green fire, quickly burning him to ashes, taking both body and soul. The purple-black figure stood in midair, maintaining the posture of grabbing Elder Chen's shoulder. Leah below felt immense pressure, knowing that Elder Chen was a great cultivator of the nascent soul realm, yet he was swiftly wiped out without the ability to resist. Void crossing realm. At least above the 5th layer. The aged voice in Leah's mind turned serious. The words, void crossing realm, made Leah's heart pound. The night forest fell into silence, Li Ya's heart in his throat, ready to defend against the opponent's attack at any moment. He screamed in his mind, "Ancestor, save me." After a few breaths, the purple-black figure vanished without a trace, leaving Li Ya shivering, looking around frantically. He's gone. He must have weighed something. The aged voice reassured in Li Ya's mind, easing his tension. Brat, forget about Guan. Go to the inner sect immediately. This outer sect is getting more sinister by the day. Someone must be defying the heavens. Staying longer will only bring disaster. The aged voice turned stern, while Li Ya remained silent. In Mystic Valley's pavilion, Guan looked at the storage bag in his hand, sighing softly. Senior brother Li, I'm sorry. If I don't injure you a bit, you'll never leave here. Guan felt guilty. After all, Li Ya came for him. Although Elder Qin clearly intended to capture Li Ya, if he directly went to the inner sect, there wouldn't be further trouble. He decided to give Li Ya more medicinal herbs when he returned. Slaying Elder Qin gained him 37 years of lifespan, neither too much nor too little. He began to examine Elder Chen's storage bag, sweeping it several times with his divine sense to extract and destroy any potentially dangerous items. By dawn, Li Ya finally returned. He had changed into clean clothes, looking as if he hadn't experienced a fierce battle. Guan met him downstairs and asked, Senior brother Li, why do you look unwell? Li Ya forced a smile. I had a minor mishap while practicing last night, it's nothing serious. Guan furrowed his brows and dragged him upstairs, taking out dozens of bottles of elixirs, claiming he had stocked them up. Li Ya asked in surprise, Junior brother Gu, what is this? You came back from outside the valley looking unwell. You must have encountered a battle last night, correct? Guan said seriously. Li Ya's expression turned grim. He took a deep breath. I did encounter a demon cultivator last night and got injured. Junior brother Gu, you should move to the inner sect Medicine Valley. Staying in the outer sect is not safe. Not safe? I don't believe it. Gu N's foundation was here, he couldn't abandon it. Whoever dared to cause trouble would die. Guan smiled bitterly on the surface. Senior brother Li, the herbs planted in this Medicine Valley are all low rank. The demon lord wouldn't be interested. Actually, without you here, we're safer. You should go to the inner sect, we'll be fine. I can ask Lu Jiujia for help. We haven't lost touch. But, Li Ya hesitated. Guan interrupted. Senior brother Li, I always felt that the chaos in the outer sect had little to do with demon cultivators. The Demon Extermination Hall has caught many demon path spies over the years. Could it be that someone is merely causing chaos under the guise of the demon path? If you go to the inner sect, you might save the outer sect. But if you stay here, how long can you protect me alone? Upon hearing this, Li Ya's expression darkened, recalling Elder Qin. After a few moments of struggle, he took a deep breath. Junior brother Gu, you are right. I will go to the inner sect immediately. Guan smiled, shoving all the elixirs into Li Ya's hands, making him very touched. After a brief exchange, Guan urged him to depart, which Li Ya also felt should not be delayed. Due to his injuries, Li Ya could only fly using sword control. After leaving Mystic Valley, he couldn't help but look back, murmuring, Do you see, this is why I can't let go of him. No matter who it is, anyone who dares to harm him, I will make them regret it. Chapter 61 The Secret of the Supreme Sect, the division between right and evil. After Li Ya left, Guan quietly put Elder Chen's storage bag into the 8 scenic caves, and in the afternoon, he came to the 3rd Medicine Valley. He wandered around and inspected the area, but his brows were tightly furrowed. After a while, Elder Tian finally took the bait. He walked over, curious, and asked, Valley Master, why have you been frowning so much? Guan glanced at him, shook his head slightly, and remained silent. Elder Tian took a step forward and said, Maybe I can't help you, but speaking about many things can reduce the pressure, and I can offer you opinions as an observer. Upon hearing this, Guan sighed and spoke out about what happened in the outer sect, including how Li Ya from the first layer of the core formation realm got injured protecting him. The reason he mentioned Li Ya was to ensure that the former sect leader remembered Li Ya's contributions. Guan always felt that Elder Tian would not truly settle here for life. He might make a comeback someday. After he finished speaking, Elder Tian furrowed his brows. Guan couldn't hold back his complaints. The Outer Sect's Demon Extermination Hall has been catching Demon Path spies all day long, yet after so many years, demon cultivators still infiltrate the Supreme Sect. Can the Supreme Sect still be considered the #1 sect if disciples within it can't even be guaranteed safety? I don't mind being killed, but I worry about my disciples. Speaking of this, he sighed again, feeling quite anxious and aggrieved. Even he praised his own acting skills. If acting skills could be added to the attribute panel, they should have reached a pinnacle, leaving some room for a return to simplicity. Elder Tian sighed and said, "It does sound troublesome, but the immortal cultivation world has always been like this. No sect would truly care about servant disciples. To put it bluntly, they don't even consider servant disciples as part of the sect." Guan frowned, this time out of genuine concern. Hearing such words from the former sect leader's mouth was very jarring. "But I heard that the new sect leader has a righteous heart and is the one the Hall of Elders looks up to. Maybe he can change things, at least better than the former sect leader," Elder Tian continued. His expression remained unchanged as if he was not belittling himself, and it was unclear whether he spoke with veiled sarcasm. Guan did not respond, just sighed, and continued to inspect the medicinal herbs. Elder Tian did not follow his pace, and he didn't mention it again, fearing that it would be counterproductive. An ancient hour later, Guan returned to the Mystic Valley. Recently, he planned to stay in the Mystic Valley and return to other places on the same day. The disciples of Mystic Valley were puzzled as to why Guan had been staying there so often lately. It wasn't until Wuxin and Tang Yu went to the Outer Sect that they learned that demon cultivators had recently infiltrated, making them nervous but also touched. The master cared for them. Since the establishment of the Third Medicine Valley, the disciples had felt distanced from Guan, but now, they felt close again. Wuxin bore the greatest pressure and began to compel the disciples to practice spells, striving to make sure everyone had some measure of self-defense. He bought some noisy spells from the Outer Sect for the disciples to practice. It was difficult to counterattack demon cultivators, but if the commotion from the battle was loud enough, it might draw support from the Outer Sect. Guan did not stop him. Perhaps this could enhance the cohesion of the Mystic Valley and just as well train Wuxin's leadership and organizational skills. A few days later, Yi Lan came. She came for the same reason as Li Ya, worried about Guan. In the attic, Yi Lan took out a treasure sword from her storage bag and placed it on the table, saying, "Recently, there have been demon cultivators around, and their cultivation levels are not low. This sword is named Qinghong sword. Carry it with you. Although it doesn't have strong power, it is connected to my white spirit sword. If you encounter danger, I can sense it immediately, and I will come to rescue you." Guan couldn't help but find it amusing and said, "Junior sister, your cultivation level is only a few layers higher than mine. Don't come to sacrifice yourself." Sacrifice herself? Yi Lan understood right away, glared at Guan and hummed, "Senior brother, if we really fought, I could subdue you with one move. I may act gently in front of you, but others face a different side of me. It seems my junior sister is indeed strong. I underestimated you," Guan said with a smile, then picked up the Qinghong sword. The scabbard was exquisite, carved with an image of a wild goose soaring above the clouds, very elegant. He then drew the sword, and with a flash of sword light, a slender blade appeared before his eyes. "It really looks good. From now on, I will wear it on my waist," Guan said with a smile. These words made Yi Lan smile brightly. Guan noticed that although Yi Lan's appearance was not as stunning as Ji Xiaoyu or Li Xuanyu, she looked quite pleasing over time. Yi Lan sat down, smiling as she watched Guan play with the Qinghong sword. Guan suddenly asked curiously, "If you encounter danger, can the Qinghong sword sense the white spirit sword?" Yi Lan raised her eyebrows and said, "Why, senior brother, do you want to protect me?" "Ha, how could that be possible? You know I have never fought. I would only cause trouble for you if I came." "You know that, senior brother. Anyway, if I'm in danger, don't come." Don't worry, I'm afraid of death. Hee, I'm afraid of death too. I won't die, I must live on. Without me, I fear someone might bully you. Nonsense, all these years, have I ever been bullied? Then may senior brother live safely forever. Since Leah left, the Mystic Valley had not encountered any more dangers. When autumn arrived, Guin calculated the time and realized that a batch of medicinal herbs in the Third Medicine Valley should be mature, so he returned to the Third Medicine Valley. As he walked out of the transmission array platform, his gaze involuntarily looked towards his attic. Someone was in the attic. Shenzhen. Guin did not go directly to find Shenzhen. After all, that attic had no secrets, and the only secret, the Green Hero Travelogue, she happened to like as well. He walked to an area and began picking herbs. Seeing the constant stream of notifications, he couldn't help but smile, feeling extremely joyful. No matter how high his cultivation level reached, seeing an increase in lifespan always made him happy. He wondered how many realms his cultivation could reach with 1,000,000 years of life. He had searched through all the books in the Outer Sect's book collection hall but had found no record of ascension, and no one knew the true extent of this world. The bigger the world, the higher the realms must be. Just the Supreme Sect had great cultivators in the Void Crossing realm. The true inheritor who was traveling might have surpassed the Void Crossing realm, but still couldn't be invincible in the world. The path of immortal cultivation was long and arduous. Guin picked herbs while his mind wandered. After he finished picking, he turned and walked towards the attic. When he passed by Elder Tian said, "Miss Shen has come looking for you several times." Guin nodded slightly, then continued walking. Elder Tian hesitated for a moment and said, "I have told Elder Guzong about what you mentioned. Perhaps the situation in the Outer Sect can be improved." Hearing this, Guin looked back at him with a smile and said, "Elder Tian, see, everyone has their use. You always say you're ready for the grave, yet you can help thousands of disciples in the Outer Sect. Thank you." Guin raised his hand in salute and then turned and left. Elder Tian pondered deeply, murmuring to himself, "Everyone has their use," on the other side. Guin went upstairs and pushed the door open, seeing Shenzhen sitting at the desk, writing. She still wore black clothes, her face covered by a black veil, her long hair coiled into a bun, with 2 strands of hair swaying on either side of her face, giving her eyes a gentle and serene beauty. Shenzhen didn't lift her eyes, as if she didn't see Guin enter. Guin walked over, circling to her side, trying to see what she was writing. At that moment, she calmly set her pen down and put away the paper. But Guin, who had already seen part of the content, had a strange expression, hesitating to speak. Shenzhen stood up, tucked the paper into her sleeve, walked to the side, and kept her distance from Guin, smiling. "I came looking for you several times, but you were never here. Is that Outer Sect Medicine Valley so captivating?" Guin responded helplessly, "Recently, the Outer Sect is unsafe. I can't bring all my disciples away, so I have to stay and protect them since my cultivation level is higher than theirs." The reason he revealed this was to hope she would pass on the message upwards. The more people spoke, the more strength and hope there would be. With your current achievements, not to mention entering the Inner Sect, even going to the main city of the Supreme Sect shouldn't be difficult. Why not focus on writing books instead of dealing with these trivial matters? Shenzhen asked curiously. Guin replied, "You are the holy daughter of the Daodan Sect, possessing resources unattainable by ordinary people. Why not focus on cultivating, but instead indulge in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting?" Shenzhen fell silent. Guin then began tidying up the desk. After a while, Shenzhen sighed, as expected of the person who wrote the Supreme Immortal Venerable. "Indeed, only you can truly understand me in this world. If you die, I will not only lose a book to read but also a confidant." "No, I can't let you die. Let me tell you a secret." She raised her sleeve and the door closed with a wave. Sheets of talisman paper flew out from her sleeve, sticking to the doors and windows. Guin curiously looked at her, wondering what secret could save his life. Within the Supreme Sect, some people want to practice demon skills to break through to higher cultivation levels, to prepare for the future demon calamity. But whether these skills are viable is yet unknown, so they are using the outer sect cities as a trial. This matter cannot be done openly as it would tarnish the reputation of a reputable sect, so they use the guise of capturing demon cultivators to cover it up, Xinjun said calmly, her eyes becoming exceptionally indifferent. Guan frowned and asked, "How do you know this?" Shenzhen replied, "Because the Dao Tian sect is also trying this. Sacrificing some lower-level disciples to ensure the sect's eternal existence is an accomplishment for generations." Hearing this, Guan felt extremely uncomfortable. What demon skill requires sacrificing disciples? Guan asked. In the world, immortal cultivation is said to defy heaven, but the higher the cultivation level, the more one can feel heavenly destiny. These demon skills are meant to help those great cultivators who can no longer break through to shatter their heavenly destiny. In short, you should give up on the Medicine Valley outside. Staying there does you no good because you are Panin. They fear you might write something, so they don't dare tell you. "Don't say I told you," Xinjun stated. Her words made Guan fall silent. The distinction between righteous and demon seemed absurd at that moment. Shenzhen's eyes curved into a smile as she asked, "By the way, how do you feel about what you saw earlier in my book?" Guan's expression turned odd again. He seriously said, "Actually, Green Hero Travelogue has its flaws. Some things are not necessary to learn." Why can't they be learned? Those are the most genuine confrontations, reflecting the truest human emotions. Do you really have to write about them? Yes. But can you change the protagonist's name so he isn't called Guan? Chapter 62, Preparing to Break Through, Immortal Slaying Sword Array, What are you afraid of? There's more than one Guan in this world. Unlike you, I can't just make up characters. I need to recognize someone to be able to write a story. In my eyes, you are the most fitting for the male protagonist. The only flaw, as far as I know, is your low cultivation level. Shenzhen spoke earnestly, causing Guan's face to twitch. Is this a compliment? Why does it sound like a personal attack? If I were to reveal my cultivation level, even your father wouldn't be able to match it. Guan continued to persuade, but Shenzhen stubbornly refused to change the name. In the end, Shenzhen proposed to exchange her name for a secret book, to which he could only agree. After Shenzhen left, Guan stayed in the attic, flipping through the book she had given him. Mystic Sound Art. This was a spell of sound, capable of harming the internal organs or confusing the enemy's senses. It was quite comprehensive. Guan happened to lack such spells and could further develop in this area in the future. Once he had read the Mystic Sound Art through once, he put it into his storage bag and then got up to leave. A month later, Guan arrived at Outer Gate City. He first went to the Elixir Hall to submit this year's harvest. Elder Zhu Qinglu received him, and he noticed Zhu Qinglu looked fatigued and had a trace of demonic qi churning inside him, similar to Lu Jiujia. "Elder Zhu, you don't look well. What's the matter?" Guan asked. He didn't understand how the demon skill of the outer sect was cultivated. Some people went missing. But this time, upon arriving at Outer Gate City, he found that many disciples hiddenly had traces of demonic qi within them. These disciples were almost all from different halls, not ordinary disciples. Was it collusion or a setup? He couldn't tell, and Shenzhen didn't say much either. Zhu Qinglu smiled. "Cultivation, nothing serious. Don't you have a Medicine Valley in the inner sect? Move there quickly, don't stay in the outer sect. Lately, demon cultivators are rampant, and it's too dangerous outside." Guan cautiously asked, "Many people have told me the outer sect is very dangerous right now. If it's so dangerous, why don't they send more people to eradicate the demons? Also, what is the area under construction in the city? It's taking up nearly a quarter of the city." Just arriving at Outer Gate City, he saw numerous disciples laying stones in the center of the city. Those stones were not mortal stones, they all contained spiritual energy. To him, it seemed like a huge sacrificial platform was being set up. Zhu Qinglu nonchalantly said, "Naturally, those above have their considerations. We can't speculate. The best we can do is to protect ourselves as best as we can. As for the construction in the city, it's an array platform, which can protect the outer sect in the future. Looking at him, Guan felt he didn't seem like a good person and probably knew the inside story and even benefited from it. Guan didn't ask further. After a few courtesy exchanges, he left. After leaving the elixir hall, Guan stood on the street, looking at the array platform under construction from afar. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and the once bustling and sunny outer gate city appeared so gloomy, as if it were a land of the demon path. Guan stood still for a long time before turning to leave. The autumn wind swept through the streets, fluttering his clothes. The Qinghong sword at his waist swayed slightly, its scabbard glinting coldly. After leaving Outer Gate City, Guan went to manage those caves. When he arrived at Li Zuanya's cave, he found her inside. From now on, you don't need to come here. I'm going to the inner sect. This is your reward, Li Xuanyu said, sitting by the table. With a wave of her right hand, a pile of spirit stones stacked up on the table. Guan immediately bowed, then went forward to put the spirit stones into his storage bag. He didn't say much and turned to leave. Watching his back, Li Xuanyu suddenly asked, I heard your leg technique is quite impressive? Guan stopped, turned to look at her and said, Did senior brother Liya say that? My leg technique can't compare to his. Recently, Liya had stayed in Mystic Valley, saw Tang Yu practicing the residual wind leg, and learned that Guan had once subdued Meng Lang with it. He didn't expect him to tell Li Xuanyu so quickly. Yes, I just asked casually, Li Xuanyu said calmly. She paused and then said, I look forward to the day you enter the inner sect. Then we can compete. Guan, puzzled, said helplessly, How can I compare with you, senior sister? I can't catch up with you. Go back. Li Xuanyu didn't respond to his words. Instead, she issued an order to leave. Guan could only leave. After leaving her cave, Guan didn't feel much psychological burden. As long as he never admitted it, what could Li Xuanyu do to him? At night, Guan walked through the forest. In the afternoon, he had already told Wuxin he was going out and would return tomorrow. He said so in advance because he was preparing to break through. Once he broke through, it would inevitably cause a commotion. If disciples looked for him and found him not in his room, they might become suspicious. Since going to the Outer Gate City, Guan had felt an intense atmosphere of danger. Those in power were cultivating demon skills, and noble disciples were fleeing the outer sect. All these signs made him anxious. Although the 9th layer of the void-crossing realm was strong, it wasn't like the Supreme Sect had no void-crossing cultivators, so after struggling for several days, Guan decided to break through another major realm. At worst, the function of extending his lifespan by 1,000,000 years would be delayed by a year. This time, he circled far and walked 300 miles by night, stopping in a dense forest. He stopped because he sensed 2 nascent soul auras, one of which he had felt before. Zuijian, the maniac swordsman of Zhanghu Lake, who had attained sword enlightenment near Mystic Valley and was injured by Guan as the flying leaf sword Immortal, had last been seen at the Ji Mansion. Guan had suppressed his aura to the lowest level, not afraid of being noticed by nascent soul cultivators. Miles away, above the forest, the blue-clothed Zuijian stood in the air. 5 treasure swords hovered around him, showcasing the demeanor of a sword cultivator. Opposing him was a man in a large black robe, burly with a long staff, thick eyebrows and leopard eyes, with a square, stern face. His black robe billowed violently, and his domineering aura pressed the forest below to the sides. Zuijian, instead of reading books in the inner sect, why come to stop me? The black-robed man asked coldly. Zuijian, expressionless, said, Chen Xianjin, as great elder of the outer sect, you cultivate a demon skill and harm your comrades. I'm not stopping you, you've committed many injustices. I come on behalf of the heavens to take you. Chen Xianjin laughed contemptuously, Don't you know who I am working for? He then struck his staff against the ground, releasing circles of purple light that formed complex and mysterious formations over 100 feet in diameter. When the edge of the formation neared Zuijian, it was blocked by an invisible sword intent, making it look like a piece was missing from the formation from above. I know. I can't deal with him, but I can deal with you. If I kill you, even if the next great elder of the outer sect continues his evil deeds, at least I can protect the outer sect disciples for some time, Zuijian said expressionlessly. The 5 treasure swords around him unsheathed simultaneously, their light illuminating the night sky. You want to kill me? Chen Xianjin seemed to hear the biggest joke, his face turning fierce. His aura erupted suddenly, and the forest within 10 miles swayed violently. Zuijian's face changed slightly, his eyes narrowing. A nascent soul of the first layer killing a nascent soul of the 9th layer? Zuijian, do you think just because you have your master to back you, I won't dare kill you? You walking the path of power without concealing yourself is a mistake in itself. Saving some mediocre outer sect disciples is insignificant compared to saving the entire Taizong dynasty. If you don't understand this, then you've lived in vain. Chen Xianjin stood arrogantly, his domineering aura pressing against Zuijian's sword shadows, causing his 5 treasure swords to tremble. They'll give you one last chance. Turn back now, and it's not too late. Either return and read your investiture of the gods or die. The staff in Qinzuanjin's hand emitted rolling demonic qi, forming a massive black dragon coiled around him. Zuijian took a deep breath and said, Since you mentioned the investiture of the gods, do you know the Immortal Slaying Sword Array? Immortal Slaying Sword Array. Chen Zuanjin's face changed dramatically, surprise shining in his eyes. Guwen, observing from a distance, was also astonished. A single vital breath, 3 divisions, law from the kettle, bind the vast void, Zuijian chanted, his treasure swords trembling violently, quickly dispersing to form an array with a fierce aura reaching the heavens. Guwen, standing under a tree, was stunned. Can someone learn Taoist sorcery from reading books? Could he be a genius? Chen Xianjin was also frightened and immediately cast a spell to attack. A fierce battle was about to erupt. The earth shook, trees fell. Guwen stood unmoved, his pupils reflecting the sword light, tightly watching Zuijian's figure. After 10 breaths, the battle ended. Guwen let out a sigh of relief. That scared me to death. Guwen truly thought Zuijian had learned the Immortal Slaying Sword Array from the investiture of the gods. If that were the case, wouldn't it mean the investiture of the gods was real? That would be remarkable. Zuijian used his self-created swordsmanship, indeed powerful, enough to contend with a great cultivator of the 9th layer of the nascent soul realm, but he didn't last long. The clouds scattered, turning the forest into wasteland, dust rising. Chen Xianjin hovered in the air, gasping, face full of lingering fear, eyes scanning the dust below. He knew Zuijian wasn't dead yet and frowned deeply, conflicted. Though he wanted to kill Zuijian, reason told him that killing him might cause trouble. Though a nascent soul cultivator, in the Supreme Sect, he was still a pawn. At this moment, a piercing sound approached, startling Chen Xianjin, who looked quickly and his pupils dilated. A cold light sped from the horizon, dispelling the dust and raising numerous leaves, like a sword cutting through time itself. In the ruins, Zuijian sensed something, instinctively opening his eyes. The dust above rapidly dispersed, the night sky reflected in his pupils, and amid the darkness, a bright light shone brilliantly. It's him. Zuijian's eyes widened, witnessing a leaf surrounded by sword qi pierced Qinzuanjin's chest, blood scattering in the night sky. At this moment, Zuijian understood. The flying leaf sword Immortal hadn't harmed him maliciously but was guiding him. Otherwise, how could he have survived? Now, the flying leaf sword Immortal saved him, making him both delighted and ashamed. Who exactly was this senior? Chapter 63 Breakthrough to the Unification Realm. After being pierced through the chest by a leaf surrounded with sword qi, Chen Zuanjin's spiritual power collapsed within his body. His eyes widened, and he was scared out of his wits. He immediately emitted his nascent soul and fled toward the sky. In the shaking forest, Guwen quietly watched Chen Xianjin escape. He intentionally did not kill Chen Xianjin. Killing him would only gain him 20 or 30 years of life. It was better to let him return to intimidate the people behind him. Even if he killed Qin Xianjin now, someone else would take his place. It would not solve the root problem. If he could not intimidate them and they threatened his mystic valley, Guan would have to take matters into his own hands. Under the black night, Guan's gaze was so cold. He turned and quickly disappeared into the forest. Among the ruins, Zuijian struggled for a long time before he managed to stand up. He was covered in blood and dirt, looking extremely battered. He called out loudly for the seniors, but no one responded. He had to sit cross-legged and cultivate his energy to heal on the spot. Meanwhile, Guan moved quickly, traveling thousands of miles before he finally stopped. He was still hiding in the forest. He lifted his robe, sat down in front of a tree, and then summoned his attribute panel. Seeing his over 100,000 years of lifespan, he took a deep breath. The void crossing realm's tribulation crossing. Who knew how many times he would fail? But he had already made up his mind. No matter how many times he failed, he must break through. Otherwise, he would not feel secure. First, invest 10,000 years of lifespan. You invested 10,000 years of lifespan into your cultivation level for evolution and cultivation. You cultivated energy absorption for 100 years. You used the great accomplishment of Yang-Wood primordial skill to forcibly break through to the unification realm and started the tribulation crossing. You did not withstand the 5 elements God Thunder heavenly tribulation and failed. You cultivated energy absorption for 400 years. You used the great accomplishment of Yang-Wood primordial skill to forcibly break through to the unification realm and started the tribulation crossing. You did not withstand the 5 elements God Thunder heavenly tribulation and failed. The failures began to pile up. Every 300 years, he attempted a tribulation crossing. No wonder the Supreme Sect cultivated demon skills to break through heavenly destiny. This realm was truly difficult to break through. After 10 consecutive failures, Guan's heart began to tremble. Is it this difficult? He had cultivated the infinite traceless mystic heaven step, great yin-yang transformation, and mastered 2 divine skills, yet it was still so hard to cross the tribulation. Guan noticed that most of his tribulations were related to the 5 elements. Could it be that his tribulations were much harder than others? After core formation, Leah once said that tribulations are categorized. Different cultivators face different tribulations, mainly related to their aptitude and cultivation techniques. Guan's eyes sharpened. No matter how difficult it is, he must succeed. The heavens don't fail those who pay with lifespan. You cultivated energy absorption for 5,400 years. You used the great accomplishment of Yang-Wood primordial skill to forcibly break through to the unification realm and started the tribulation crossing. You did not withstand the 5 elements God Thunder heavenly tribulation and failed. You cultivated energy absorption for 5,700 years. You used the great accomplishment of Yang-Wood primordial skill to forcibly break through to the unification realm and started the tribulation crossing. You did not withstand the 5 elements God Thunder heavenly tribulation and failed. The failure prompts kept coming. Guan hurriedly checked his attribute panel, looking at his lifespan. He felt a bit relieved. He still had confidence. However, even after 10,000 years had passed, he had not succeeded. His mentality almost broke. He hurriedly invested another 1,200 years. Failure. 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 Guan's eyes turned red. He invested another 1,200 years. Failure. Failure. Success. You cultivated energy absorption for 900 years. You used the great accomplishment of Yang-Wood primordial skill to forcibly break through to the unification realm and started the tribulation crossing. You withstood the 5 elements God Thunder heavenly tribulation and succeeded. You broke through to the first layer of the unification realm. You cultivated energy absorption for 1,200 years. Your cultivation level has increased. It was a success. Guan let out a long breath. It took him 12,400 years to succeed. Although the lifespan consumed by the evolution of lifespan surpassed real-world cultivation, he still felt the pressure. The unification realm was already like this. What about the realms afterward? But then he thought, Considering his initial aptitude, reaching the unification realm before 50 was incredible. It was not lifespan being consumed, just numbers. Guan adjusted his mindset, activated the lifespan barrier, and prepared to enjoy the improvement in his cultivation level. Spiritual energy began to seep out of the ground, appearing at a visible speed. In less than 3 breaths, the ground appeared in a cyan wave, which would attribute spiritual energy. Spiritual energy surged into his body, stirring up a whirlwind around him. The momentum began to grow larger. Guan felt that this time's commotion would surpass previous ones. Although it seemed like only breaking through one realm, the spiritual energy required for this one realm was incomparable to previous realms. As spiritual energy entered his body, Guan's cultivation level began to rise, and at the same time, insights into the unification realm emerged in his mind, as if he had truly experienced years of cultivation. In the Outer Gate City, in a mansion, Chen Xuanjin's nascent soul floated in front of a table. His face was gloomy, and he stared intensely at the ancient bronze mirror in front of him. Soon, a blurry face reflected in the mirror, and a cold voice emerged. "So late, what do you want to see me about?" "I was almost killed by the flying leaf sword Immortal, and Zuijian, he stopped our grand plan." Chen Xianjin gritted his teeth, his tone filled with unwillingness and a trace of fear. Being pierced by that flying leaf gave Chen Xianjin a feeling of facing death. He was extremely scared now. He felt that if he had reacted even a little slower, he would have perished completely. The person in the mirror fell silent upon hearing this. Chen Xianjin did not disturb him, quietly waiting. After a while, Chen Xianjin seemed to sense something, and his face changed dramatically. "The spiritual energy is sinking again." Chen Xianjin quickly said, looking toward the door as if afraid the flying leaf sword Immortal would come for him. "Tomorrow, I will come to the outer sect myself." The person in the mirror said, and with these words, the image in the mirror disappeared. Chen Xianjin turned to look outside the window. The clouds in the sky gradually covered the bright moon, as if doom was descending, making his heart even more fearful. Not only did he feel the sinking of spiritual energy, but the entire Outer Gate City was also alarmed. More and more disciples flew into the sky. Recently, demon cultivators ran rampant, with disciples disappearing from time to time. Tonight, with the sudden sinking of spiritual energy, who would not panic? Yi Lan flew toward the law enforcement hall. Along the way, she encountered Lu Jiujia flying on his sword from the opposite direction. Both stopped simultaneously. Lu Jiujia's face was stern. Seeing Yi Lan, he hesitated. Yi Lan's expression remained cold. "Is this your doing again?" Lu Jiujia shook his head. "No, the demon extermination hall has already ordered a state of vigilance. This time it might really be a demon cultivator invasion." "Really?" Yi Lan asked in a sarcastic tone. Lu Jiujia frowned. Yi Lan continued, "Senior brother Lu, do you really think this path is right? They can be cruel to other disciples. Are you sure they will never turn against you?" Lu Jiujia countered, "If not this path, then what path? Like you, joining the law enforcement hall that can be disbanded at any time." The two looked into each other's eyes, full of conflict. Eventually, they brushed past each other without saying more harsh words. Dark clouds swirled, and a huge inverted vortex appeared in the night sky, vast and wide. The forest below undulated like waves, extremely oppressive. In a forest, in a hidden spot where no one could see, Guan was still sitting in meditation. An entire hour had passed, but his cultivation level was still increasing, not yet breaking through to the unification realm. The spiritual energy needed for the unification realm was truly enormous, far beyond Guan's expectations. How terrifying would it be to cross the tribulation in reality at such a realm? He suddenly felt that failing the evolutions many times did not matter. After all, in real life, failing once could mean death. Guan felt the surging spiritual power within him, unable to remain calm. Having such massive spiritual power at the unification realm, what kind of power would a true immortal possess? He fell into infinite reverie. Earth's spirit energy frantically poured into his body, and green waves of spiritual energy emerged from the ground. It felt as if he was in an ocean. Outside the lifespan barrier, the forest shook violently. More and more cultivators flew over Gu En's head, but no one noticed his presence. The effects he caused were not limited to this. Accurately, the whole Supreme Sect was affected. The forests outside all outer cities were shaking, causing the cultivators of Supreme Sect to feel anxious. This was not the first time Gu En had experienced this, so he was not panicking. On the contrary, he found it somewhat amusing. They want to cultivate demon skills and sacrifice outer disciples. Let's see how panicked they become. Gu En was dissatisfied with the notion of sacrificing a few to save many. Not because he was particularly honorable, but because he was among those being sacrificed. Time continued to pass. More and more cultivators flew over Gu En's head, and he kept using the lifespan detection. More than 10 Divinity Transformation Realm cultivators had passed by, and he even saw Void-Crossing Realm cultivators. Indeed, the Supreme Sect was full of hidden experts. With more and more Void-Crossing Realm cultivators passing by, Gu En even spotted an ancient ancestor. The demeanor of the patrolling ancient ancestor was extremely strong, unlike the gentleness shown toward Gu En. The overwhelming pressure made all things tremble. This night was destined to be restless. Another half an hour passed, and Gu En finally broke through to the unification realm, transforming his entire perception. He felt that his body and his primordial spirit were more in harmony. The process of his primordial spirit emerging from the body became much easier, and his control over both his body and primordial spirit had greatly improved compared to before. This feeling was so wonderful, so much so that he could not describe it. After reaching the unification realm, Gu En's spiritual power also began to change, becoming stronger and more abundant. The range of his divine sense increased tremendously, but he did not intentionally search, fearing he might disturb the great cultivators passing overhead. The number of Void-Crossing Realm great cultivators had already exceeded 10. Gu En even saw a great cultivator with the Ji surname. No wonder the Ji family dared to open a mansion in the Supreme Sect. This person had not appeared during Ji Xiaoyu's banquet before. A little more than half an hour later, Gu En's spiritual power growth began to slow down. This indicated that the breakthrough was near its end. Gu En's mind gradually calmed down. This lifespan barrier already consumed more than 1,000 years, but he did not feel any regret. After all, the barrier helped him avoid detection by over 100 great cultivators. The great cultivators he identified were at least at the nascent soul realm. And this was just one direction of the Supreme Sect. How many great cultivators would there be when counting those overseeing the other 7 outer gate cities? What reassured Gu En was that he did not see any unification realm great cultivators for the time being. Although this could not completely prove that the Supreme Sect did not have any unification realm great cultivators, it at least indicated that the unification realm was at the top level within the Supreme Sect. Chapter 64. Heavenly Repair Platform. Mysterious big formation. The morning sun pierced through the mountains and rivers, swept over the outer gate city, and countless disciples were flying in and out, busy and oppressed. In a mansion, Chen Xuanjin's nascent soul floated inside the hall. He lowered his head, full of tension. In front of him, a man sat on the high seat, dressed in a dragon-patterned black robe, his face young and handsome. However, the majesty between his eyebrows gave him a sense of oppression that did not match his appearance. His long hair was coiled under a silver crown with Qilin carvings, exuding an air of supremacy just by sitting there. Your brother was killed by the demon cultivators of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Now you are seriously injured by the flying leaf sword Immortal. Do you think Sui Yijian's master might have something to do with the Thousand Autumn Pavilion? The black-robed man spoke slowly. His tone was calm, as if talking about a trivial matter. Chen Xianjin quickly raised his head and said, "It's possible. It's not uncommon for the Thousand Autumn Pavilion to place spies in the Supreme Sect. Didn't you say that the high levels definitely have spies from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion? Now one of them has emerged." Offending Zhuo Yijian would certainly bring endless trouble. If he could overthrow Zhuo Yijian's backer, Chen Xianjin would not fear Zhuo Yijian. The black-robed man squinted, his eyes falling on Chen Xianjin, scaring him into lowering his head quickly. The hall fell silent again. After a long time, the black-robed man said in a deep voice, "Prepare the formation, just in time for the recent disturbance from the demon cultivators. After this, the blame can be placed on the Thousand Autumn Pavilion." Chen Xianjin hurriedly said, "But in my current state, I'm afraid. This time, I'll handle it personally." "What? No, it can't be done. Whether this plan will succeed is still uncertain. The Daotian sect is also waiting for us to try it. Nothing in this world is guaranteed to succeed. The path of immortal cultivation is one that treads through thorns. This plan has been in the making for 100 years. The Supreme Sect must proceed. We cannot let those in the shadows sabotage our grand scheme. You need not persuade me further." Hearing this, Chen Xianjin could only suppress his worries and agree to the matter. On the other side, Mystic Valley. Guan was leading the disciples through practice. The commotion of the previous night had left them restless, so they were chatting in small groups. Tang Yu asked, "Master, why are you back so soon?" The others looked at Guan. Guan snorted, "Didn't you feel the disturbance last night? I returned quickly because I was afraid something might happen to you." Upon hearing this, all the disciples felt ashamed, thinking they were too weak and always worried their master. Sichuan anxiously said, "Senior brother, why don't you go to the inner sect's Medicine Valley? We could disband and find our own ways in the outer gate. That way you'll be safe." He was not afraid of death, he just did not want Guan to be too overworked. Guan had already reached the Foundation establishment realm, with a future they could not compare to. Why should he be constantly worried for their safety? Guan said, "If you want to go to the outer gate city, you are free to go, but I must remind you, the outer gate isn't necessarily safer than Mystic Valley. Disciples often go missing in the city. This is neither a threat nor a hint. I respect your choice, whether you stay or leave. The bond of Mystic Valley remains." He spoke from the heart. He pursued longevity and was prepared to face countless partings in the future. He had long since prepared himself not to concern himself with others' fates. Unless someone truly made him reluctant to part, he would follow his heart. Hearing his words, the disciples fell silent, looking at each other. Wuxin hesitated to speak but held back. Why leave? Becoming servant disciples elsewhere, who will make elixirs for us like the Master. Mystic Valley doesn't need so many servant disciples, but the Master still took us in without reducing our benefits. We must not forget our gratitude. Tang Yu was the first to speak. His greatest regret was not rushing to the front like Su Han during Qiu Qianli's chaos. In those days, Su Han chased after him. Now Su Han had reached Foundation establishment, while he still didn't know if he could ever reach it. This gap began at that calamity. Tang Yu did not resent Guan, only felt ashamed. He vowed to perform well and regain Guan's favor. As he spoke, the other disciples chimed in, the atmosphere becoming lively, not as oppressive as before. Guan smiled and then called the disciples to continue their exercises. After they had just finished, Yilan came. Confirming Guan's safety, she quickly left. Guan stood by the window, looking towards the direction of the outer gate city. There were still great cultivators flying occasionally, but not as many as the previous night. Guan's divine sense could easily span thousands of miles, peeking into the outer gate city, which was far from the limits of his divine sense. He saw the huge array platform being accelerated in construction. Some disciples had even started transporting spirit stones. He silently watched, unable to discern what formation the array platform was for. The matter of the sinking spiritual energy caused turmoil within the Supreme Sect, and the tense atmosphere lasted nearly 10 days before easing. Guan was affected. Several outer disciples were relocating their caves, losing him channels for collecting life energy. These outer disciples were clearly fleeing the outer gate city. Guan was not disappointed. He now had 3 pieces of the Medicine Valley, with increasing life energy in the future. He was even preparing to expand the third medicine valley. He was now just waiting for the matter of the outer gate to end quickly. As long as it did not threaten his mystic valley or the few people he cared about, he was disinclined to meddle in the Supreme Sect's schemes. As Shen Zhen had said, even the top sect of the Great Yu dynasty, the Daotian sect, was engaged in such activities. Why should he force interference? He did not have such a strong sense of justice to save all. The world had too much suffering. Could he save it all? Besides, such matters were difficult to manage. If he forcefully disrupted the Supreme Sect's plan, and later the Supreme Sect faced a great calamity with demons impossible to withstand, he would be blamed. Everyone in the Supreme Sect would hold him accountable. After all, apart from the sacrifices, others were beneficiaries. Even those saved might resent him, thinking they wouldn't have been sacrificed without his intervention. He couldn't keep saving groups of people endlessly, shouldering the mission of rescuing the world. Just thinking about it tired him. Time continued to pass. That day, Guan went to Tianya Valley, first harvesting the matured medicinal herbs, then leading 3 monkey demons to sow the seeds. Luo Hun walked over from behind and said, "A month ago, the Earth's spiritual energy sunk, many great cultivators from the Supreme Sect patrolled everywhere, and someone even passed over Tianya Valley. What exactly happened in the Supreme Sect?" Guan casually responded, "It seems there was an invasion by demon cultivators. By the way, Liu was injured by demon cultivators earlier and is now recuperating in the inner sect." Luo Hun frowned deeply at this news, then turned and left, walking into the mountains and forests. After that, Gu Ennis Divine Sense saw him casting on some talisman paper. Once his spiritual power poured into it, the talisman paper burned into ashes quickly. Guan, already at the unification realm, could sharply detect a trace of Luo Hun's spiritual power fleeing towards the sky, moving at an incredible speed. It seemed Luo Hun was informing Li Xiandao. Guan didn't think much about it, continuing his sowing. After sowing was done, he gave some instructions to the 3 monkey demons before leaving Tianya Valley. He cared more about the construction and development of the Medicine Valley rather than those schemes. Directing his efforts here was the main task. Thick clouds covered the sky, and the outer gate city was crowded. Su Han and Zhen Qin stood before a stone stele. Su Han read, "Heavenly Repair Platform." Following Zhen Qin's gaze, they saw an imposing array platform dozens of miles long and wide ahead of them. Statues of ancient immortals stood at the edges in various postures. In the center of the Heavenly Repair Platform stood 100 Shanghai stone pillar, square and engraved with complex veins resembling human meridians, exuding mysterious signs. "Senior brother, what is the purpose of this Heavenly Repair Platform? Why did the sect summon all the outer disciples back, and why must we gather on the platform tomorrow?" Zhen Qin asked, her brows furrowed with dissatisfaction. Su Han looked at the Heavenly Repair Platform, speaking softly, "I don't know either. It might be related to the spiritual energy sinking a month ago." The streets behind them were bustling with people. Many disciples stopped to discuss the Heavenly Repair Platform, equally perplexed. Many disciples witnessing it for the first time were amazed by the size of the platform. How strong would the formation be if such a large array platform were activated? Unable to get an answer, Zhen Qin turned her head in another direction and briefly saw a familiar figure. But upon closer inspection, she saw no one, as if she had mistaken. "Strange," Zhen Qin muttered. Not far away, in a crowd of people, Jiang Qiong walked forward in a blue dress, her eyes sideways towards the Heavenly Repair Platform, expressionless. A hunchbacked old man walked beside her, leaning on a cane, only reaching her shoulder. "Miss, this array platform is not simple. There might be a major event tomorrow. Should we stay?" The hunchbacked old man asked. He was not the only one. Many disciples around were worried, with various speculations. Jiang Qiong remained expressionless and replied, "Indeed, it is not simple. The restrictions within the array platform are exceptionally complex. It would take decades to deduce. But since we are here, we must see it tomorrow." The hunchbacked old man looked at her, sighing, "Miss, you have changed a lot. Do you not have any attachments in this Supreme Sect?" I do, hence why I asked you to come. Huh, looks like these old bones of mine will be tested again. They chatted casually, without mentioning the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, so no one suspected their identities. Meanwhile, on the other side of the heavenly repair platform, in a 9-story pavilion, 2 figures stood by the building edge, both appearing young. One of them was the black-robed man, Chen Zuanjin's backer. The black-robed man looked down at the heavenly repair platform, eyes deep, lost in thought. The young man beside him asked, "Master, most of the outer gate disciples in this city should have returned. Should we also gather servant disciples from nearby medicine valleys, beast fields, and mines?" That voice was indeed Chen Xianjin. He had seized the body of a young disciple. The black-robed man said softly, "No need, having too many servant disciples would dilute the purity of cultivation." Chapter 65. Demon Suppressing Umbrella, Qinghong's Trembling. One night passed, and by dawn the next day, more and more outer disciples entered the outer gate city. Disciples of the Demon Extermination Hall and Law Enforcement Hall began to guard each city gate, checking the identity cards of every disciple entering the city. Many disciples were already sitting in meditation on the heavenly repair platform, waiting. Su Han and Zhen Qin stood at the edge, looking out with furrowed brows. "Senior brother, I feel something is off. Should we leave?" Zhen Qin whispered. She had been cultivating a technique taught by Jiang Qiong, making her keenly perceptive. The Demon Extermination Hall disciples standing at the edge of the heavenly repair platform made her uncomfortable, triggering a primal urge to flee. Su Han also sensed something was wrong, so he nodded and led his junior sister away. The two moved against the flow. It wasn't just them. Some other disciples also sensed something amiss and wanted to leave the outer gate city, but most chose to trust the Supreme Sect. They made their way to the city gates, only to be stopped by the Demon Extermination Hall disciples. Today, entry was allowed, but exit was not. Su Han glanced at the large flags standing along the city walls, frowning again. These flags hadn't been there when they entered the city yesterday. "Junior sister, I'll distract them and you prepare to escape," Su Han said using the sound transmission skill. Zhen Qin instinctively looked at him upon hearing this. At that moment, Su Han suddenly drew his sword and dashed towards the city gate. "How dare you!" The disciple guarding the gate shouted angrily. Without needing a command, the surrounding Demon Extermination Hall disciples immediately took action. Zhen Qin wanted to support Su Han but saw that he was surrounded. If she helped now, she would surely be captured along with him, which would only waste his efforts. She immediately made her way towards the gate, but nearly 100 Demon Extermination Hall disciples were in front of it, with more on the walls, making escape difficult. Zhen Qin rushed towards the area with the fewest people. At the same time, other disciples attempting to leave the city also began to act, creating chaos in front of the gate. The weakest of the Demon Extermination Hall disciples were at the 5th layer of Foundation Establishment Realm. Su Han was quickly pinned to the ground, unable to move. He struggled to raise his head and saw Zhen Qin injured and on the ground, making his eyes redden with anger. The one who had hurt Zhen Qin was a female disciple dressed in the black robes of the Demon Extermination Hall. She walked in from outside the city, blocking the gate, and coldly scanned the crowd. "Today we're investigating Demon Path spies. Anyone who tries to leave proves they're affiliated with the Demon Path." Upon hearing this, the anxious disciples visibly relaxed. It turned out to be an investigation of Demon Path spies, which explained the grand setup. They were only worried that the Supreme Sect might be up to something else. If it was just about catching demon cultivators, they had nothing to fear and were confident in their innocence. Su Han, Zhen Qin, and the other disciples who had acted were sealed with talisman papers that blocked their spiritual power and then escorted to the heavenly repair platform by Demon Extermination Hall disciples. By noon, all city gates of the outer gate city were closed. A resonant bell rang out, and a commanding voice echoed throughout the city. All disciples must immediately gather at the heavenly repair platform. Disciples from various streets began to head towards the platform, where tens of thousands were already standing. The news that the Outer Gate was investigating demon path spies had spread, giving peace of mind to those who weren't spies, and some even continued their qi absorption cultivation on the platform. Yi Lan arrived at the edge of the heavenly repair platform with disciples of the law enforcement hall. Just as she was about to step onto the platform, she noticed a row of disciples kneeling on the ground from afar, held down, and recognized Su Han and Zhen Qin, both with disheveled hair and blood-stained mouths, clearly having just fought. She did not act rashly but withdrew her gaze, pondering how to rescue the two disciples. After much thought, she reluctantly acknowledged that Lu Jiujia was her only possible ally. The law enforcement hall had been entirely suppressed by the demon extermination hall. Even the hall master couldn't take anyone from their hands. Yi Lan couldn't help but worry about Guan, hoping he hadn't entered the city. She felt that today's events involved more than just catching demon cultivators. As a law enforcement hall disciple, she couldn't simply flee due to suspicion. Deep down, she still held some trust in the Supreme Sect, believing that such actions by the Demon Extermination Hall could only occur in secret. In the distance, Jiang Qiong and a hunched elder stood at a window in a pavilion, alongside some inner sect disciples who did not head to the heavenly repair platform but were curious about the Outer Gate's actions. Last night, a powerful divine sense swept the city. Its cultivation level is likely beyond the divinity transformation realm. The hunched elder spoke with a heavy tone, frowning. Beyond divinity transformation? Jiang Qiong squinted her eyes. The hunched elder continued to ask, "Miss, can you tell me why you are here?" Jiang Qiong looked toward the distant heavenly repair platform and said, "To kill a traitor." "A traitor?" The hunched elder looked puzzled. Time continued to pass. When the number of disciples on the heavenly repair platform exceeded 100,000, it still seemed spacious. Lu Jiujia stood at the edge, scanning the disciples on the platform. The murderous intent in his brows grew stronger, giving off a dangerous aura. Yi Lan approached, and upon seeing her, Lu Jiujia frowned. "Su Han and Zhen Qin were captured by your people. Can you let them go?" Yi Lan asked softly. Though she had already severed ties with Lu Jiujia, she had to lower herself for the two juniors. If she were the victim, she could choose death, but those two were Gu An's disciples, and she couldn't abandon them completely. Lu Jiujia's frown deepened upon hearing this, but he still nodded slightly. "Thank you." Yi Lan turned to leave after speaking. Lu Jiujia watched her departing figure, wanting to say more, but ultimately only sighed and went to look for Su Han and Zhen Qin. Half an hour later, he brought Su Han and Zhen Qin back to where he was standing. Zhen Qin cautiously asked, "Marshal Uncle Lu, is this really just about catching demon path spies?" Lu Jiujia nodded lightly without speaking. Zhen Qin sighed in relief and said no more, while Su Han observed Lu Jiujia, feeling something was wrong with him. Suddenly, a red umbrella rose from behind a large building on the east side of the heavenly repair platform, quickly flying to the center above the platform, drawing many gazes. The red umbrella opened, releasing white jade beads that dangled on thin threads, swinging and clattering against each other, producing a clear sound. With a boom, the red umbrella erupted with powerful spiritual power, a faint golden light spreading and quickly covering the entire Outer Gate city, connecting with the flags on the city walls. Everyone in the city looked up, some curious, others fearful. A figure appeared out of thin air beneath the red umbrella. A man in black robes. "I am Chu Xian, an elder of the Supreme Sect's main city. I am here to cleanse the Outer Gate of demon path spies," the black-robed man named Chu Xian announced. As his words fell, the vast void-crossing realm aura enveloped the entire Outer Gate, letting everyone feel his immense power. Yi Lan looked up at the high and mighty Chu Xian from the crowd, her eyes full of shock. What kind of cultivation could produce such a presence? Not only her, but Lu Jiujia, Su Han, and Zhen Qin were also stunned. Most outer disciples looked at Chu Xian as if he were an immortal, awestruck, and reverent. The Demon Extermination Hall has captured many demon path spies over the years, but there are still demon cultivators causing harm. We will first investigate the Demon Extermination Hall. Chu Xian's voice was cold and indifferent. As his words ended, The red umbrella above him shook, emitting an eerie sound that echoed throughout the city. Lu Jujia's expression changed drastically. Clutching his chest with both hands, he fell to his knees with a thud. Not only him, but all the surrounding Demon Extermination Hall disciples did the same. Some even screamed in agony. "Martial Uncle Lu, what's wrong?" Zhen Qin asked urgently, extremely nervous. Lu Jijia felt as if countless bugs were biting him all over, the pain excruciating. He couldn't respond, only signaling Zhen Qin and Su Han to stay away with his hand. The outer disciples on the platform looked towards the outer edge where the Demon Extermination Hall disciples were, murmuring in alarm. "The magic artifact above me is the Demon Suppressing Umbrella. Under its light, demonic qi is cleansed, and anyone practicing demon skills will turn to blood." Chu Xian's voice echoed once more. The heavenly repair platform erupted. Could the Demon Extermination Hall really be full of demon cultivators? The Demon Extermination Hall had captured countless people over the years, making many despise them. Now, knowing they were demon cultivators, how could anyone not be furious? Shouts and curses rang out. Lu Jijia was in unbearable pain, his forehead pressing against the ground, his body trembling. "Damn it! I knew it." Lu Jijia gritted his teeth, his face twisted in agony. He couldn't mobilize his inner spiritual power, and his heart plunged into unprecedented fear. Black qi emanated from him, rising into the air. It wasn't just him. Other Demon Extermination Hall disciples also emitted black qi that quickly ascended, converging towards the demon suppressing umbrella. Yi Lan stepped out from the crowd, seeing Lu Jujia's painful state. She hurriedly approached, taking out an elixir from her storage bag and feeding it to Lu Jijia. This sight caused other disciples to start cursing her, but she remained unfazed. However, her elixir proved ineffective. Junior sister? Run." Lu Jijia spoke with immense effort, each word seeming to drain him completely. After the word, "run," he spat out a large mouthful of black blood. "What's going on?" Yi Lan asked sternly, pausing briefly before quickly saying, "I can't escape now. Unless the truth is revealed and we fight with the whole sect, there's only a slim chance of survival." Lu Jijia couldn't respond, his hand trembling as he raised his right hand, pointing towards the sky. Yi Lan turned her head and saw that he was pointing at Chu Xian in the sky. "Next, we will inspect the demon path spies on the platform," Chu Xian's voice sounded, causing the noisy platform to fall silent. At that moment, even disciples confident in their innocence felt a bit of panic. The demon suppressing umbrella swayed again, and its eerie sound made everyone's hearts tremble. Yi Lan seemed to feel something, quickly looking down. The ground of the heavenly repair platform was covered in dense blood patterns resembling some strange script. Her feet were right on a blood pattern, an evil force drilling into her body and forcibly sealing her spiritual power, leaving her immobile. She trembled all over, and her white spirit sword at her waist rang out as well. All the disciples on the platform knelt in unison, like rising and falling waves. They, too, were on top of dense blood patterns. I never expected the demon path to infiltrate so deeply. Given that this outer gate has no reason to exist. Chu Xian's voice descended from the sky, icy cold, plunging everyone into an abyss. In Mystic Valley, inside a pavilion, Guwen was writing a book when the desk suddenly trembled, causing him to stop. His gaze shifted to the Qinghong sword placed on the desk beside him. The Qinghong sword was vibrating violently, the blade seemingly trying to leap out of its sheath, accompanied by faint bird-like chirps. Looking at the Qinghong sword, Guwen's expression changed. Chapter 66. The Sword That Fell from the Sky. On the heavenly repair platform, tens of thousands of disciples knelt, blood runes surged beneath their feet, transforming into wisps of blood energy that coiled around their bodies. "Elder, I am not a demonic infiltrator. You are the demon. Traitor, you will die a horrible death." Ridiculous, so many demon spies, what a grand joke. I never thought the Supreme Sect could be so dark, and they claim to be the #1 righteous sect of Taizong. It won't be long before the Taizong dynasty is annihilated too. Chu Xian, even if I die, I won't let you go even as a ghost. Such actions, do you not fear the wrath of gods and men, and the retribution that follows? Crying, begging, cursing, all kinds of sounds filled the outer gate city. In the center of the heavenly repair platform, within the stone pillars, grooves began to fill with blood from the bottom up, as if veins were flooding, a scene of eerie horror. Rolling dark clouds surged in from all directions, rapidly covering the sky above the outer gate city, plunging the city into darkness. A faint golden light shield emitted from the demon-suppressing umbrella began to manifest, enveloping the entire city. Those disciples not on the heavenly repair platform tried to flee but could not break through. Yi Lan trembled, trying to stand up, but she couldn't. Feeling her spiritual power being drained away, her eyes were full of terror and despair. Su Han and Zhen Qin beside her were in the same state, unable to speak, only able to wait in hopelessness for death to come. In the distance, inside the pavilion, a hunchbacked old man gazed at the figure of Chu Xian, his face heavy, saying, I never expected him to become this powerful. The talent of the Supreme Sect is truly extraordinary. How many years has it been? Jiang Qiong's eyes also showed signs of fear. Merely facing the pressure from Chu Xian, she dared not act rashly. The gap was too vast. I see, the legendary heaven and earth nirvana array, Jiang Qiong muttered to herself. Hearing this, the hunchbacked old man looked at her, saying, Mistress, this array is likely to threaten us. We should withdraw immediately. Jiang Qiong nodded. Her target was not Chu Xian. His appearance was unexpected, especially the heaven and earth nirvana array, which had a great impact on her. The two immediately turned around, preparing to leave the outer gate city. Boom! Thunder rolled through the dark clouds in the sky, like a roaring heavenly god, oppressive and loud. Chu Xian looked up, his expression calm. After just a glance, his gaze returned to the city. Looking at the tens of thousands of struggling disciples below, his eyes showed a trace of compassion. For the eternal prosperity of the Supreme Sect, making a sacrifice is not in vain for your lifetime of cultivation. He muttered, seeming to comfort himself. The compassion in his eyes gradually disappeared, his gaze becoming indifferent. He raised his hand, grabbing the demon-suppressing umbrella, preparing to increase the force and refine the cultivation of all the disciples on the platform in one go. Yi Lan was already lying on the ground. She painfully raised her eyes to look. Under the billowing thunderclouds, Chu Xian's figure was so terrifying. But at that moment, she saw not Chu Xian, but another figure. She worried that Guan wouldn't escape this calamity. Regret filled her heart. She should have sought Guan yesterday, to let him leave the Supreme Sect early. Today's actions were against the heavens and humanity. Chu Xian would surely kill all the servant disciples belonging to this outer gate city. More and more blood-colored runes covered her body, like chains, pulling her tightly, as if they wanted to drag her into the ground. An unprecedented exhaustion surged toward her like a raging tide, her eyelids trembling as they shut. The white spirit sword at her waist continued to tremble, seemingly anxious for its master. Just then, Yi Lan seemed to feel something, instinctively opening her eyes. Sunlight shone on her face. Not only her, the other tormented disciples also opened their eyes because the sky suddenly brightened. The bloodied Lu Jiujia could only look at the sky with his remaining vision. Under his gaze, the rolling thunderclouds above had been dispersed. From the cloud waves at the horizon, it was obvious they had been driven away by some powerful force. Jiang Qiong and the hunchbacked old man, who were quickly moving through the streets, saw it more clearly. They turned to look and then stopped. Above the demon-suppressing umbrella, outside the faint golden light shield, a sword hovered. The sword was enveloped in sword chi, obscuring its blade, but it was evident it was a long, slender sword. Chu Xian raised his head, moving the demon-suppressing umbrella, his brows furrowed. Who? His voice echoed, with a hint of tension. That single word brought hope to everyone in the city, those trapped on the heavenly repair platform showing looks full of hope. Boom! A formidable sword intent burst from the sword shadow in the sky, crushing the faint golden light shield over the entire city in an instant. Chu Xian's expression changed dramatically. He immediately channeled spiritual power into the demon-suppressing umbrella, which shook violently, releasing a powerful force to counter the sword qi. Combine! Chu Xian's eyes widened. Just as he uttered a syllable, the sword shadow plummeted with overwhelming dominance, scattering the vast power of the demon-suppressing umbrella, shattering it and piercing through his body. Like a falling star. The sword shadow descended, landing on the heavenly repair platform, its blade embedding in the stone, vibrating incessantly. The formidable sword intent burst forth, scattering all the blood-colored runes on the platform, shattering the massive stone pillar instantaneously. The sword intent swept past Yilan's body, causing her robes to flutter, giving her a sense of awakening from a nightmare. Su Han and Zhen Qin felt the same. They quickly stood up. More and more disciples broke free from their restraints, standing up and turning to look at the sword shadow in the center of the platform. To them, the sword was not fearful, for it had saved their lives. Someone looked up to see Chu Xian still floating in the air, holding the umbrella handle of the demon-suppressing umbrella, his body trembling, blood pouring from his 7 orifices uncontrollably. "Why?" Chu Xian stammered, but before he could finish, his body erupted in bursts of sword light, soon turning to ashes, not even his primordial spirit escaping. The sky followed with a dim yellow light, as if dusk had arrived. How is this possible? He was in the void-crossing realm. The hunchbacked old man's eyes widened, his tone filled with terror. Jiang Qiong's composure also faltered. Chu Xian already surpassed the divinity transformation realm. What level of cultivation was needed to slay Chu Xian with a single sword? Following her gaze, a pillar of energy fell from the sky, connecting to the heavenly repair platform, seemingly splitting the entire world in two. That was sword qi. In this world, such a sword cultivator had been born. At that moment, Jiang Qiong felt very insignificant, also very mediocre. The century of injury seemed to have eliminated her from the immortal cultivation world. Meanwhile, the third medicine valley. Under a large tree, Elder Tian gazed towards the direction of the outer gate city. Even from a great distance, he saw the pillar of sword qi above the heavenly repair platform. Unification, Elder Tian muttered, his voice heard only by himself. On the mountain top at the edge of the medicine valley, Yan stood against the wind. A strong gust suddenly blew. Pulling his robes backward, he held a long spear, his posture as steady as a pine, unmoved. He squinted, looking at the pillar of sword qi in the distance, filled with wonder. Dozens of miles away, Shenzhen stood on a cliff. Behind her was the entrance to her cave. The wind blew her black robes and veil, revealing the lower half of her face intermittently. In her pupils reflected the pillar of sword qi, her eyes full of curiosity. Supreme Sect still hid such sword cultivators. She couldn't help but think of the flying leaf sword Immortal, plucking leaves and killing nascent souls. How high was his realm? No one knew, not even who he truly was. Yi Lan stood at the edge of the heavenly repair platform. In front of her were tens of thousands of disciples. She couldn't see the sword shadow surrounded by the sea of people, but her eyes turned unconsciously to the white spirit sword at her waist. The sword continued to tremble slightly. Her eyes revealed a complex expression. At that moment, the outer disciple stepped back, making a thunderous noise. Yilan's attention was caught by a sharp sound. It was the sound of the sword blade grinding against stone. She immediately leapt, stepping on her flying sword, ascending into the sky. Not only her, but tens of thousands of disciples did the same, scattering into the air, creating an immensely spectacular sight. All who reached the sky widened their eyes, for they saw the sword shadow that had killed Chu Xian moving swiftly, the blade still embedded in the platform stone, sliding all the way, sparks flying, sword intent spreading. Elder Lu Chang of the book collection hall frowned deeply, reciting, "Righteous path." When the sword shadow finished carving the last stroke, it flew up, brushing past the heads of all disciples, disappearing into the horizon in an instant. Everyone turned their heads to look at the heavenly repair platform. At its center were two large characters engraved. Righteous path. The strokes filled with vigor, exuding extreme sharpness and an aura of death. Jiang Qiong and the hunchbacked old man also flew into the air. Seeing those two characters, the two demon cultivators from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion were also deeply shaken. Taitsong righteous path committing to demonic deeds, but ultimately stopped by a mysterious sword cultivator who left behind the two characters, righteous path. What did this signify? The Supreme Sect might have its dark sides, but it also had great cultivators with a heart for justice. Jiang Qiong always sneered at the name of the righteous path of the Supreme Sect, thinking the Supreme Sect was just deceiving the world, but now she suddenly felt the Supreme Sect might not be so contemptible. Mystic Valley, within the pavilion. Guan sat at his desk, his brows slightly furrowed. Someone had locked onto his Qinghong sword, making it difficult for him to recall it directly. He was using sword intent to control the sword. That earlier strike was no ordinary attack, it was a move from the Taitsong Divine Shocking Sword. The Integration Realm Taitsong Divine Shocking Sword. Since you want to chase, fine, let them understand a sword hangs over their heads within the Supreme Sect. Guan thought silently, then picked up a brush, preparing to see if he could multitask. The Qinghong sword was already over 6,000 miles away from him, and the distance was rapidly increasing. Above the sea of clouds, the Qinghong sword wove rapidly, leaving a long trail of energy waves that extended to the edge of the sky. Suddenly, the Qinghong sword stopped, suspended above the clouds. In less than 3 breaths, a golden light shot from the horizon, quickly arriving in front of the Qinghong sword, within less than 100 meters. The golden light dispersed, revealing a man in a blue Taoist robe, holding a horsetail whisk, appearing immortal-like, only his expression was somewhat solemn. Who are you exactly, a unification realm sword cultivator unheard of within the Taitsong dynasty? The Taoist robed man asked, his tone grave. Chapter 67. The angry vice sect leader. The voice of the man in the Taoist robe echoed above the sea of clouds, his gaze constantly fixed on the Qinghong sword. He couldn't discern the true form of this sword because his divine sense couldn't penetrate the sword qi on its surface, which made him quite alarmed. This person's sword Dao accomplishment was absolutely the strongest he had ever encountered. However, he didn't get a response. The entire world seemed to be left with only him and this sword, with no second person present. But he could sense a trace of divine sense fluctuation on the Qinghong sword, indicating that it was being controlled by someone, which made him highly alert and on guard. At this moment, the Qinghong sword burst out with powerful sword intent. In an instant, rolling thunderclouds poured in from all directions, dimming the entire sky and earth. The terrifying sword intent locked onto the man in the Taoist robe, causing him to be moved. Thousands of lightning bolts intertwined in the thunderclouds above. Each bolt was like a group of dragons thrashing in the sea of clouds. The sword qi on the Qinghong sword surged wildly, burning like raging flames. The man in the Taoist robe immediately wielded his horsetail whisk, and streams of gang qi were released, gathering around him into a gigantic golden light mountain. On the mountain rose numerous statues, as if silently shouting. Suddenly, torrential rain arrived, and strong winds howled through the clouds. Under the flashing lightning, the Qinghong sword, wreathed in sword qi, seemed like an unparalleled demon sword, giving the man in the Taoist robe immense pressure. The Qinghong sword flew up, its tip pointing toward the man in the Taoist robe. The man in the Taoist robe immediately struck out with his palm, and the giant golden light mountain on his body burst into dazzling brilliance. All the statues simultaneously struck with their palms, spiritual power transforming into a grand light mass towards the Qinghong sword, resembling a river of stars crossing the sky. The Qinghong sword moved. Bang! With a single sword strike, it targeted the man in the Taoist robe. The sword moved, the wind and thunder roared, and the heavens and earth trembled. A cold light radiated across the sky, and the Qinghong sword was like the fastest light, the fiercest thunder, shattering all obstructing objects with unstoppable force. The river of stars was directly driven away, and the giant golden light mountain on the man in the Taoist robe shattered instantly. He immediately dodged and jumped away, but the next second, the Qinghong sword had already reached before him, relentlessly pursuing. He struck out with his palm, and the space in front of him seemed to solidify. An invisible barrier forcibly halted the Qinghong sword. Ripples spread around, giving the barrier a shape. Suddenly, the face of the man in the Taoist robe changed, darkly thinking something was wrong. Crash! The sound of shattering glass rang out, and the man in the Taoist robe instinctively retreated. Time seemed to slow down, and in his pupils, the tip of the Qinghong sword was getting closer and closer to him. The sword qi blossomed like a flower, so brilliant and magnificent. Bang! A strong wind came at the man in the Taoist robe, blowing off his hair crown. His black hair floated freely, and his Taoist robe was fiercely pulled backward. The sea of clouds behind him scattered, the thunderclouds above tore apart, and the sunlight poured down as if a giant crack had been cut through the sky, extending to the horizon. The man in the Taoist robe widened his eyes, looking at the sword suspended in front of him, unable to calm his emotions. This sword could completely harm him but stopped at a point he couldn't defend against. Under his gaze, he saw the Qinghong sword slowly descending. He seemed to understand something, neither dodging nor striking back. The Qinghong sword gently tapped his chest 3 times, then turned and left, its speed even faster than when he had chased. This time, the man in the Taoist robe didn't pursue because he knew it was pointless. He was simply not the opponent of the other party. His face gradually darkened. Though the sunlight shone on him, it felt so glaring to him. Inside the house, Guan wrote with one hand while raising the other to catch the Qinghong sword that flew in from the window. He had sent the Qinghong sword in several circles and only retrieved it when the disciples in the valley were not paying attention. After the earlier duel, Guan suddenly felt confident in his own sword Dao accomplishment. Killing Chu Xian in the Void-Crossing realm granted him 93 years of lifespan, and the Taoist robe man he encountered later was also at the Unification realm. Judging by his aura, he was probably at the initial Unification realm like Guan, at most not above the second layer, but he was still not a match for Guan's Taizong Divine Shocking Sword. He had always thought his actual combat ability in the same realm was weak, but now he realized he might have underestimated himself. Even without much combat experience, his cultivation in spells and ultimate skills was solid and genuine, not mere fantasies. Not everyone could spend thousands of years cultivating spells, while the vast majority of cultivators dedicated most of their time to qi absorption cultivation. Of course, fighting with a higher realm against a lower realm was always more stable. Gu unsheathed the Qinghong sword and placed it on the table. He turned his head to look at the outer gate city, where many great cultivators from the Supreme Sect had already gone. Tens of thousands of outer disciples survived, and Chu Xian's crimes could not be concealed. Yi Lan and the others were safe. He believed that the Supreme Sect wouldn't practice that demon skill again in the short term. The 2 big characters Guan carved at the heavenly repair platform became the focus of attention for cultivators, with great cultivators marveling at his sword intent, and outer disciples indignantly cursing Chu Xian, demanding a thorough investigation from the higher-ups. Because Chu Xian had used a formation to isolate the outer gate city in advance, the servant disciples of Mystic Valley didn't hear the commotion, but some disciples outside saw the turbulent sea of clouds and took notice. An hour later, more cultivators started flying over Mystic Valley, causing the disciples in the valley to talk incessantly. Guan didn't go downstairs, pretending to be unaware of the matter. Today, the Supreme Sect was destined not to be peaceful. After a night, in the early morning, Yi Lan, Su Han, and Zhen Qin returned. Guan welcomed them in the attic, and Wuxin and Xiaochuan insisted on joining the fun, so Guan let them in as well. Zhen Qin began recounting the events of the previous day, her voice full of surprises, making Wuxin and Xiaochuan experience emotional ups and downs. Yi Lan was uncharacteristically silent, no longer staring at Guan all the time. Guan roughly guessed the reason and pretended not to notice her unusual behavior. After Zhen Qin and Su Han finished speaking, Wuxin sneered, I knew long ago that the Supreme Sect wasn't as righteous as it's rumored to be outside. I didn't expect it could be so shameless, sacrificing tens of thousands of fellow disciples. Even the Thousand Autumn Pavilion hasn't done something so heinous. Feeling vexed, Xiaochuan gritted his teeth and said, "Brother, why don't we switch to another sect? Planting herbs elsewhere is still planting." Guan glared at him and said, "Nonsense, don't say such things in the future. In any case, this matter has been interrupted. There are still righteous people in the Supreme Sect." He was reluctant to give up his foundation, especially the 8 scenic caves. Cultivators from the main city of the sect have already come to seek justice. They said they would give an explanation to the outer disciples. Let's see how the sect handles this. The commotion yesterday was too big to be hidden, and word will surely spread to the immortal cultivation world, Yilan said, still not looking at Guan while speaking. Su Han, thinking of something, hurriedly said, "Master, Marshal Uncle Lu is severely injured. Even if he survives, I'm afraid." Guan had noticed Lu Jujia's tragic condition the day before but was powerless to help. Lu Jujia's cultivation had been completely drained, and even if he survived, he would be a cripple, unlikely to cultivate immortality again. He wondered if Wuxin's Taoist expansion skill could help him. "Tell him that if he doesn't mind, he can come to Mystic Valley to find me, and we can plant flowers and herbs together, living a peaceful life," Guan sighed. Mentioning Lu Jujia's fate cast a heavy atmosphere over the room. "Alright, everyone go now. I need to talk to junior sister Yi." Guan waved his sleeve. The others quickly saluted and then turned to leave. Zhen Qin, being thoughtful, closed the door. As the door was about to shut, she gave Guan a playful glance, leaving him somewhat amused and exasperated. The room fell into silence. Guan could sense Yilan's unsettled aura. He smiled and said, "Junior sister, you must be frightened. How about staying in Mystic Valley for a few days to rest?" Yilan took a deep breath and turned to look at him, saying, "Indeed I was frightened, but not scared. Senior brother, I suddenly understand your previous words. I truly was foolish. The path of immortal cultivation should primarily be about cultivating. If you and I were to hide in the mountains and encounter such evil people like yesterday, with no ability to fight back, it would be the most tragic thing for us." Hearing her speak this way, Guan instead worried she was under too much pressure. "Junior sister, don't overthink. It's good to work hard on cultivation, but dangers like yesterday's are rare to encounter," Guan spoke earnestly. Yilan nodded and said, "Although I don't know who the great cultivator who acted yesterday was, I will learn from him. When I become as strong as him, I will stand by your side, senior brother." She smiled and raised an eyebrow at Guan. Seeing her return to her usual self, Guan also smiled. Then Yilan talked about the situation in the Demon Extermination Hall. Almost all disciples there were crippled, but the main city of the sect intended to thoroughly investigate the hall. According to her information, this incident might affect the Hall of Elders in the main city. In the Supreme Sect, it was never a one-person's rule. Everyone had opponents, and Chu Xian's opponents were no exception. They would certainly seize this opportunity to act. Guan also looked forward to changes in the Supreme Sect. If the situation remained this vile, he might one day grow tired and, once strong enough, let the Supreme Sect hear a different voice. 2 days later, in the Third Medicine Valley, Guan was inspecting medicinal herbs when he suddenly sensed 2 auras. His brow furrowed slightly, but he didn't turn around. Soon, Gu Zong landed with someone. This person was none other than the man in the Taoist robe who had earlier battled the Qinghong sword. "Guan, come over," Gu Zong called out from afar. Guan immediately turned and walked over, casting a life-span detection on the man in the Taoist robe. Divine sense could detect a person, but life-span detection had to be done through the naked eye. Ji Han Tian, Unification Realm First Layer 780/3300/3500. Indeed, it was the Unification Realm First Layer. And his surname was Ji. Previously, he had seen a great cultivator in the Void Crossing Realm surnamed Ji, but he hadn't expected there to be a Ji named cultivator in the Unification Realm hidden in the Supreme Sect. The foundation of the Ji family was truly terrifying. Guwen walked up to Gu Zong and saluted. Gu Zong smiled and said, Guwen, this is the vice sect leader, and he's also from the Ji family. Upon hearing this, Guwen immediately saluted Ji Hantian. Ji Hantian nodded, smiled, and said, no need for formalities. After all, you also come from the Ji family. Come, let's talk upstairs. Guwen immediately led the way. After entering the room upstairs, Guwen closed the door, and Gu Zong set up a restriction. Ji Handan suddenly slapped the table and angrily said, outrageous. Simply lawless. Panned, and you must write this down and expose the Supreme Sect's sins to the whole world. Chapter 68, Status Promotion, Searching for Pan, and you want me to write it? Guwen didn't dare to respond. He had no idea why Ji Hantian was so angry. If Ji Hantian wanted Guwen to defame himself, he certainly wouldn't do it. Why are you yelling so loudly? Gu Zong said discontentedly. He then sat down, gesturing for Guwen to sit beside him. Guwen nodded and sat down on the stool next to him. Ji Hantian, trying to calm his emotions, said, using tens of thousands of disciples to refine a formation, is this truly the righteous path? If not for that mysterious sword cultivator intervening, I would still be in the dark. He was truly upset. At that time, he was in seclusion when he sensed a strong sword intent, which startled him into coming out of seclusion. Traveling tens of thousands of miles, he arrived only to find that Chu Xian was beyond saving, but he heard the curses of the outer sect disciples, making him both angry and curious about the identity of that sword cultivator, so he pursued. He ended up being easily defeated by the other party. Ever since reaching the unification realm, Ji Hantian felt he could walk unchallenged in the Taizong dynasty, with few able to match him. Most who could were ancient monsters in long seclusion. He hadn't tasted defeat in a long time. The most crucial thing was, the other party not only defeated him but also helped him. If that person hadn't intervened when I came out of seclusion, wouldn't the hatred for the outer sect's destruction be pinned on the demonic sect? Ji Hantian asked Gu Zong, staring intently. Gu Zong smiled bitterly, not answering directly, but his answer was obvious. Ji Hantian then looked at Guwen and said, you need to write down everything that happened 3 days ago. This includes the disgraceful activities of the Demon Extermination Hall and the Sword Cultivator who prevented the outer sect calamity. Since he acted, it shows he is also part of the Supreme Sect, just very low-key. Promoting his deeds can help maintain the Supreme Sect's image, so it won't instantly be seen as demonic. Hearing that he could flatter himself, Guwen felt relieved. However, he couldn't agree too easily. Guwen put on a difficult expression, hesitating to speak. Ji Hantian frowned and asked, what? You don't want to do it? Gu Zong said annoyedly, such a big matter, if he dares to write it, he will surely offend a lot of people. You just give him a huge problem with one word. How dare you? Ji Hantian felt a bit embarrassed when he heard this. Guwen took a deep breath and said, I'm willing to work for the Supreme Sect, but, Gu Zong smiled and said, what do you want? Just say it. Ji Hantian frowned but did not say more. I want to expand my Medicine Valley, making it the 3rd Medicine Valley in the inner sect, controlling a 100-mile radius area for planting more medicinal herbs. I will still turn in herbs to the sect as usual and not take more. Guwen said seriously. Ji Hantian couldn't help but ask, just that? You could ask for more and higher requirements. He thought Guwen would make a big demand, but it turned out to be just this. Guwen nodded and said, I only want this. My talent is mediocre, asking for treasures or cultivation techniques would only bring trouble. Growing medicinal herbs is my hobby, and it gives me more inspiration for writing, which also benefits the Supreme Sect. Ji Hantian couldn't help but look at Gu Zong. Gu Zong smiled and said, don't underestimate him. He's truly thinking this way. You may not know Pan An's reputation, but get to know him in these few days. As long as he speaks, the Hall of Elders will surely promote him to true disciple. Oh, his books are really that amazing? Read The Investiture of the Gods. You'll absolutely like it. Alright then. I will make the decision. In that 100-mile area, you can grow whatever you want. Also, you will receive a set of the 6th grade Spirit Protection Array. Gu Zong, handle this matter. Ji Han Tian said seriously. Gu Zong smiled and nodded. Gu En immediately bowed to thank Ji Han Tian. Gu Zong started to inquire about the sect leader's view on the matter. Ji Han Tian sarcastically said he would surely feign ignorance. The sect leader and the vice-sect leader did not get along. During this, Ji Han Tian also mentioned LV Baden, namely Elder Tian, expressing his strong dissatisfaction with Elder Tian. It seemed that Elder Tian had altered his appearance and figure, making him unrecognizable and easily overlooked. Only after listening to the end did Gu En learn that Elder Tian indeed suffered from deviation. Elder Tian often stayed in seclusion and did not manage the Supreme Sect much, leading to many under his name causing chaos. After his deviation, they elected Elder Chu Tianqi as the sect leader. In Ji Hantian's words, Elder Tian was already seen as dead. This made Gu En have more conjectures about the relationship between Gu Zong and Ji Han Tian. Only after half an hour did Ji Han Tian and Gu Zong leave. Gu En stood on the grass, watching them go. Suddenly, Elder Tian came over curiously and asked, "Is something happening with the outer sect?" Gu En nodded and briefly explained the situation, making Elder Tian frown. "Elder Tian, what do you think? Do you believe the Supreme Sect is righteous or evil?" Gu En asked casually, squatting down to look at a medicinal herb ahead. Elder Tian responded, "The line between righteousness and evil isn't easy to define. It shouldn't be judged by the present, but by future generations." These words. No wonder the Supreme Sect is so crooked. Gu En stopped inquiring, not bothering with Elder Tian. He began planning how to fully utilize the 100-mile area, with Gu Zong promising that except for Shenzhen, he would move the nearby inner sect disciples' cave residences away to avoid future conflicts. Inner sect disciples were different from outer sect disciples, having both high talent and complex connections. To say the least, any random inner sect disciple would have a significant background. Through this incident, Gu En came to understand that the Taizong dynasty wasn't ruled by the emperor or the sects but by the aristocratic families. The Ji family alone could have a vice-sect leader in the Supreme Sect and place family members in every sect under the Taizong dynasty. Let alone the Gu family or Zhou family. Gu En believed Chu Jingfeng and sect leader Chu Tianqi also came from the same family, and the Chu family wasn't simple. However, it didn't matter to him. He wouldn't establish his own family and didn't want too many ties. Follow the path first, then act as desired. Gu Zong moved quickly. In less than 7 days, the procedures were completed, and the nearby inner sect disciples were relocated. He also brought a set of 6th grade Big Spirit Protection Array. The Spirit Protection Array was specifically used to enhance and contain spiritual energy. Though the world is vast, spiritual energy flows. Each great sect searches for spirit lineages to establish, then seals the spiritual energy, resulting in rich spiritual energy within the sect. This makes the spiritual energy in the secular world scarce. With the array and plenty of medicinal herb resources, he could reach the core formation realm, nascent soul realm, and even divinity transformation realm, while claiming he had poor talent and relied on resources. This way, others wouldn't see him as a threat. Additionally, Gu Zong allowed him to have 20 servant disciples in the 3rd Medicine Valley. Generally, servant disciples weren't allowed in the inner sect, and previously bringing 4 was an exception, given his relationship with Gu Zong. Gu En recruited 7 people from Mystic Valley, including Tang Yu. As for Xiaochuan and Wuxin, they still stayed in Mystic Valley, but Gu En now permitted them to visit the 3rd Medicine Valley at any time. Life was about to get a lot better. Time flew by. A month had passed since the outer sect calamity. On this day, Gu En came to the outer gate city. Without the demon extermination hall, the city had restored its former prosperity, with disciples moving around less tensely. Walking along, Gu En suddenly saw a person, Jiang Qiong. When dealing with Chu Xian, Gu En's divine sense noticed Jiang Qiong, but he pretended not to know. He thought she would have left after a month, but surprisingly she was still here. Jiang Qiong walked up to him and smiled. "Come with me." Guwen looked at the hunchbacked old man behind her and used a lifespan detection. Hu Mo, Divinity Transformation Realm, 9 layers 970/1300/1570. Guwen could sense the hidden demonic qi inside the old man. Jiang Qiong was truly bold, not only coming herself but also bringing a same realm companion, unafraid of being exposed. Seeing Guwen hesitate, Jiang Qiong raised her hand and revealed a token. Outer Sect Great Elder. Equivalent to the ruler of the Outer Sect. Guwen looked at her in astonishment, wondering how she managed it. Jiang Qiong smiled proudly and walked past him. He quickly followed her pace. Soon, Guwen entered Jiang Qiong's residence, where there were many servant disciples, none with demonic qi. Jiang Qiong led Guwen into a grand hall while Hu Mo stood at the entrance. Guwen could sense him casting a spell to isolate the area, preventing any spying. Guwen watched Jiang Qiong sit at the chief seat, even crossing her legs, lacking any demeanor of the Outer Sect Great Elder. "How did you manage it?" Guwen couldn't help but ask. Jiang Qiong snorted, "Your martial master's divine skills are vast. Being a great elder of the Outer Gate City is nothing. One day I might become the sect leader." Guwen laughed and asked, "If you become the sect leader, will you favor the Thousand Autumn Pavilion or the Supreme Sect?" "If I become the Supreme Sect leader, I won't be a demon cultivator and will side with the Supreme Sect. Even if the Thousand Autumn Pavilion Master is offered, I won't take it." Jiang Qiong casually replied, filled with disdain for the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Guwen suddenly understood why there were so many Thousand Autumn Pavilion agents in the Supreme Sect, yet the Thousand Autumn Pavilion couldn't topple the Supreme Sect. To the Thousand Autumn Pavilion cultivators, the Thousand Autumn Pavilion was far inferior to the Supreme Sect. Wuxin preferred being a servant disciple in the Supreme Sect over returning to the Thousand Autumn Pavilion as the young master. From now on, any Thousand Autumn Pavilion cultivator who seeks you must not learn the whereabouts of the green vine tree. That tree belongs to you and me only, no longer to the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Understood? Jiang Qiong said seriously. Guwen nodded. "Sorry, it's only mine." Jiang Qiong smiled. "Grand Disciple, tell me, what do you need? Feel free to ask." Guwen thought for a moment and said, "Can you promote Yi Lan from the Law Enforcement Hall? She is my junior sister. As for other requests, I don't need them for now. My medicine valley in the inner sect has expanded, so I don't need more valleys. In the future, if you have high-rank medicinal herb seeds, you can give them to me. I'll grow and cultivate them and then hand them to you." Jiang Qiong's smile grew brighter. She looked him over and said, "Not bad. I didn't choose the wrong grand disciple. Don't worry, Martial Master won't be polite with you. Of course, Martial Master won't shortchange you either. Besides, I have a task for you." Guwen couldn't help but ask, "Besides growing medicinal herbs, what else can I do for you?" "Keep a close eye on Panin and his news. According to my information, Panin doesn't have high cultivation, hiding in the Outer Sect, but the Hall of Elders keeps his identity a tight secret." Chapter 69 Sword Venerable Fudao, renowned throughout the world. Part 4. Looking for myself? Guwen wanted to laugh but restrained himself. Ji Hantian asked Guwen to write about himself, and Jiang Qiong asked him to find himself. Despite the different identities, he still found it absurd. "What kind of matter is this?" Guwen said hesitantly, "My usual activity range is mostly within Medicine Valley. I'm afraid it's difficult for me to notice any news about Panin." Jiang Qiong waved her hand and said, "That's hard to say. Panin loves writing books and naturally socializes. The book Supreme Immortal Venerable stirs the emotions of lower-level cultivators. He might often interact with outer and servant disciples. In any case, keep an eye out and tell me if you find anything." Guwen could only nod upon hearing this. Jiang Qiong then discussed some other matters and had Hu Mo, who was guarding the door, fetch a bag of high-rank seeds for Guwen to take away. After leaving Jiang Qiong's residence, Guwen headed towards the heavenly repair platform. It was said that the heavenly repair platform had become the most notable attraction in this outer gate city, attracting disciples from other outer and inner cities to visit. The grand battle a month ago had spread throughout the Immortal cultivation world. Even Luo Hun from Tianya Valley had heard of it, indicating that he occasionally left the valley. Upon reaching the heavenly repair platform, Guan saw that at least 10,000 people were on the platform. Beside the words righteous path, many cultivators were meditating. Guan first noticed two familiar faces. Zuijian and Zuolin. This father and son pair were observing Guan's sword intent. Guan had carved words with his sword intent, naturally leaving behind his sword intent, which held a great attraction for the sword cultivators of the Supreme Sect. Guan also saw another person, his disciple Su Han. Su Han was also a sword cultivator. Having grasped the essence of the hateful heaven divine sword, his accomplishments in sword Dao had grown rapidly, and his overall bearing was transforming. Guan watched from afar, not disturbing anyone while listening to the discussions of other disciples. The sword intent of Sword Venerable Fudao is truly majestic. One can't imagine how high his sword Dao accomplishment is. It's said that Sword Venerable Fudao has strength comparable to that of the vice sect leader. Even if he faced the sect leader, he might not lose. Perhaps Sword Venerable Fudao is actually the sect leader? That's impossible. The sect leader himself stated that he has no idea what Chu Xian did. He also said there will be a thorough investigation of everyone associated with Chu Xian, regardless of status. Anyone who goes against the ethics of the Supreme Sect will be severely punished. Looking at these words righteous path, they truly stir my heart. I heard Pan and wants to write about Sword Venerable Fudao in his book. I wonder what kind of story it will be. Sword Venerable Fudao. This was the title given to Guan by Chu Tianqi, the sect leader of the Supreme Sect. More precisely, it was conferred upon the mysterious sword cultivator who killed Chu Xian. Sword Venerable Fudao, upholding the righteous path. If any unjust matters or people reappeared in the Supreme Sect, the Sword Venerable could act in the sect leader's stead to uphold justice, cutting down unjust sect leaders and vanquishing evil within the sect. This sounded imposing, but Guan thought it was useless. Chu Tianqi's proclamation protected himself. Ever since he conferred the title Sword Venerable Fudao, the criticism against him within the sect had significantly reduced. Instead, people praised him for his actions, believing he had the magnanimity to face responsibility. Guan also overheard people questioning the sect leader. More accurately, questioning the Chu family. Chu Tianqi and Chu Xian were hard to separate in people's minds. This indicated the undercurrents within the Supreme Sect. Those who praised and those who questioned publicly did not match the typical behavior of cultivators. It was hard to determine if they were being used as pawns. However, none of this concerned Guan. After spending some time at the Heavenly Repair platform, Guan headed to the transmission array platform of the inner sect. He needed to purchase a large number of medicinal herb seeds from the inner sect. Although Gu Zong's delegation had given him many seeds, they were far from enough to cover an area of 100 miles. The thought of having his medicinal herbs cover an area of 100 miles excited Guan. A month ago, taking the risk not only saved those around him but also brought him great benefits, which made him very satisfied. By evening, Guan returned to the Third Medicine Valley. The arrival of 7 new servant disciples added some vitality to the valley. They were weeding and clearing land in various directions while the distant mountain forests echoed with the barks of spirit dogs, adding a pastoral feel. As soon as Guan returned, he sensed Xingjin's presence, who was once again waiting in his loft. Upon heading upstairs, Guan saw Xingjin standing by the bookshelf, reading. Hearing the footsteps, she returned the book to the shelf and turned to face him. Guan closed the door and asked, "Miss Shen, what brings you here today? I heard you're going to write a book about Sword Venerable Fudao? I'll be part of it, but it won't be solely about him. Mainly, it will recount the events from a month ago in the outer sect." "Then you must be careful. The reputation of Sword Venerable Fudao has spread beyond the Taizong dynasty. Just yesterday, I received a letter saying that sword cultivators from the Great Yu dynasty are preparing to challenge him. Many believe that since you're writing about Sword Venerable Fudao, you must have a connection with him. They think finding you is easier than finding him. Shenzhen laughed lightly as she spoke, her eyes gleaming with mirth. Guwen sighed helplessly. How could I possibly meet Sword Venerable Fudao? To write about him, I need to gather material from the outer sect. Don't worry. I haven't disclosed your identity to anyone. Even my father wanted to know about you, but I refused. As Shenzhen spoke, she took out a book from her storage bag and placed it on the table. Though I haven't told anyone, you should still be careful. The power of Sword Venerable Fudao makes many sects uneasy. They all want to gather information about him. Additionally, here is the book I wrote. Within a month, the book collection hall will start selling it nationwide. You can take a look first. With that, Shenzhen walked out, brushing past him. They were already familiar with each other, so Guwen did not see her off. Instead, he went to the desk and picked up the book Shenzhen had written. Supreme's Secret Records. It sounded very serious. Guwen immediately started to read, but as he continued, his brows began to furrow. Really? He had thought Shenzhen's writing wouldn't surpass Green Hero Travelogue, especially regarding matters between men and women. To his surprise, she wrote in even greater detail. This person acted demure in front of him but wrote so uninhibitedly in private? This content shouldn't be published, right? Guwen hoped that the scrutiny of the book collection hall would do its job. Though he was displeased, he continued reading with great interest. This reading lasted the entire night. At dawn, Guwen gathered the disciples to begin their exercises. As the number of disciples in the Third Medicine Valley increased, he believed tradition should be maintained, even getting Elder Tian involved. After the exercises, Guwen began assigning tasks. He left 3 disciples to sow seeds while the others continued clearing the land. The dense forests around the Third Medicine Valley needed a significant amount of time and effort to transform into cultivable fields. Guwen, even without using spells, did not feel tired and even told his disciples that it was also a form of cultivation. In truth, the disciples did not feel tired either and were very motivated. The larger the Third Medicine Valley grew, the more benefits they would receive, as Guwen was generous in sharing the medicinal herbs, providing them with more elixirs. Life settled into a peaceful routine. Guwen spent most of his time in the Third Medicine Valley, busy with clearing land and sowing seeds. 5 days later, Shenzhen came looking for Guwen again, very angry because her book had been rejected by the book collection hall. Guwen almost laughed, but he held it in. Shenzhen was very adamant. The more the book collection hall refused to publish her book, the more determined she was to publish it. She decided to print it herself and secretly spread it in the inner sect. Guwen advised her to revise it, delete some content, and maybe it would pass, but she didn't listen. Either way, without the help of the book collection hall, Guwen believed her book couldn't become popular, easing much of his concern. Winter's snow gradually fell, blanketing the earth in white. At noon, Guwen arrived at Tianya Valley. To his surprise, there was an additional person inside the valley, and they had a formidable presence. Luo Hun, sensing Guwen's presence, leaped out of the forest like a flying swan, landing in front of him. You came just in time. Let me introduce you to someone. They were sent by His Majesty. From now on, let them take any medicinal herbs they need to help them break through as soon as possible. Luo Hun said, leading Gu into a distant area with lofts. Guwen never coveted the herbs in Tianya Valley. He only wanted to gather them. Afterward, it was up to Li Xiandao to distribute them, as they originally belonged to Li Xiandao. When they reached the loft, the door of a nearby house opened, and a white-robed man stepped out. Yi Luyan, Divinity Transformation Realm, 9 layers 466/1208/2850, Divinity Transformation Realm, 9 layers. His Majesty's forces were not weak either. Yi Luyan looked to be in his early 40s, with an elegant and refined demeanor. His white robe highlighted the charming and reserved temperament typical of a swordsman. From across the wall, Yi Luyan cupped his hands and said, I am Yi Luyan, a pleasure to meet you, Valley Master. Luo Hun introduced, Senior Yi is the first sword servant by His Majesty's side. His sword Dao accomplishment is among the best in the Taizong dynasty. Only a few in the world can compare in sword Dao, countable on one's fingers. Guwen raised his hand in greeting to Luyun. Luyun stared at Guwen and asked, "Valley Master, you are also a disciple of the Supreme Sect. Do you know anything about Sword Venerable Fudao? What exactly is his cultivation level?" Sword Venerable Fudao was famed throughout the land, but everyone only knew he had slain Chu Xian of the Void Crossing realm. Few were aware he had also fought Vice Sect leader Ji Hantian. Ji Hantian himself had not mentioned it, as if it had never occurred. "I am merely an outer disciple of the Supreme Sect with limited knowledge. However, there is a remnant of his sword intent on the heavenly repair platform in the outer sect. Senior could take a look." Guessing that this sword cultivator sought a challenge with Sword Venerable Fudao, Guwen suggested the platform to make him realize the gap between himself and the Sword Venerable. Indeed, upon learning of Sword Venerable Fudao's sword intent at the Supreme Sect, Luyun's eyes brightened, and he immediately leaped out of the valley, flying through the air. Chapter 69 Sword Venerable Fudao, Renowned Throughout the World, Part 4. Looking for myself? Guwen wanted to laugh but restrained himself. Ji Hantian asked Guwen to write about himself, and Jiang Qiong asked him to find himself. Despite the different identities, he still found it absurd. "What kind of matter is this?" Guwen said hesitantly, "My usual activity range is mostly within Medicine Valley. I'm afraid it's difficult for me to notice any news about Panan." Jiang Qiong waved her hand and said, "That's hard to say. Panan loves writing books and naturally socializes. The book, Supreme Immortal Venerable, stirs the emotions of lower-level cultivators. He might often interact with outer and servant disciples. In any case, keep an eye out and tell me if you find anything." Guwen could only nod upon hearing this. Jiang Qiong then discussed some other matters and had Hue Mo, who was guarding the door, fetch a bag of high-rank seeds for Guwen to take away. After leaving Jiang Qiong's residence, Guwen headed towards the Heavenly Repair Platform. It was said that the Heavenly Repair Platform had become the most notable attraction in this outer gate city, attracting disciples from other outer and inner cities to visit. The grand battle a month ago had spread throughout the immortal cultivation world. Even Luo Hun from Tianya Valley had heard of it, indicating that he occasionally left the valley. Upon reaching the Heavenly Repair Platform, Guwen saw that at least 10,000 people were on the platform. Beside the words, "Righteous Path," many cultivators were meditating. Guwen first noticed two familiar faces. Zuijin and Zuolin. This father and son pair were observing Guwen's sword intent. Guwen had carved words with his sword intent, naturally leaving behind his sword intent, which held a great attraction for the sword cultivators of the Supreme Sect. Guwen also saw another person, his disciple Su Han. Su Han was also a sword cultivator. Having grasped the essence of the hateful heaven divine sword, his accomplishments in sword Dao had grown rapidly, and his overall bearing was transforming. Guwen watched from afar, not disturbing anyone while listening to the discussions of other disciples. The sword intent of Sword Venerable Fudao is truly majestic. One can't imagine how high his sword Dao accomplishment is. It's said that Sword Venerable Fudao has strength comparable to that of the Vice Sect leader. Even if he faced the sect leader, he might not lose. Perhaps Sword Venerable Fudao is actually the sect leader? That's impossible. The sect leader himself stated that he has no idea what Chu Xian did. He also said there will be a thorough investigation of everyone associated with Chu Xian, regardless of status. Anyone who goes against the ethics of the Supreme Sect will be severely punished. Looking at these words, "Righteous Path," they truly stir my heart. I heard Pan and wants to write about Sword Venerable Fudao in his book. I wonder what kind of story it will be. Sword Venerable Fudao. This was the title given to Guwen by Chu Tianqi, the sect leader of the Supreme Sect. More precisely, it was conferred upon the mysterious sword cultivator who killed Chu Xian. Sword Venerable Fudao, upholding the righteous path. If any unjust matters or people reappeared in the Supreme Sect, the Sword Venerable could act in the sect leader's stead to uphold justice, cutting down unjust sect leaders and vanquishing evil within the sect. This sounded imposing, but Guan thought it was useless. Chu Tianqi's proclamation protected himself. Ever since he conferred the title Sword Venerable Fudao, the criticism against him within the sect had significantly reduced. Instead, people praised him for his actions, believing he had the magnanimity to face responsibility. Guan also overheard people questioning the sect leader. More accurately, questioning the Chu family. Chu Tianqi and Chu Xian were hard to separate in people's minds. This indicated the undercurrents within the Supreme Sect. Those who praised and those who questioned publicly did not match the typical behavior of cultivators. It was hard to determine if they were being used as pawns. However, none of this concerned Guan. After spending some time at the Heavenly Repair Platform, Guan headed to the Transmission Array Platform of the Inner Sect. He needed to purchase a large number of medicinal herb seeds from the Inner Sect. Although Gu Zong's delegation had given him many seeds, they were far from enough to cover an area of 100 miles. The thought of having his medicinal herbs cover an area of 100 miles excited Guan. A month ago, taking the risk not only saved those around him but also brought him great benefits, which made him very satisfied. By evening, Guan returned to the Third Medicine Valley. The arrival of 7 new servant disciples added some vitality to the valley. They were weeding and clearing land in various directions while the distant mountain forests echoed with the barks of spirit dogs, adding a pastoral feel. As soon as Guan returned, he sensed Xingjin's presence, who was once again waiting in his loft. Upon heading upstairs, Guan saw Xingjin standing by the bookshelf, reading. Hearing the footsteps, she returned the book to the shelf and turned to face him. Guan closed the door and asked, "Miss Shen, what brings you here today? I heard you're going to write a book about Sword Venerable Fudao? I'll be part of it, but it won't be solely about him. Mainly, it will recount the events from a month ago in the Outer Sect. Then you must be careful. The reputation of Sword Venerable Fudao has spread beyond the Taizong dynasty. Just yesterday, I received a letter saying that sword cultivators from the Great Yu dynasty are preparing to challenge him. Many believe that since you're writing about Sword Venerable Fudao, you must have a connection with him. They think finding you is easier than finding him." Shenzhen laughed lightly as she spoke, her eyes gleaming with mirth. Guan sighed helplessly. How could I possibly meet Sword Venerable Fudao? To write about him, I need to gather material from the Outer Sect. Don't worry. I haven't disclosed your identity to anyone. Even my father wanted to know about you, but I refused. As Shenzhen spoke, she took out a book from her storage bag and placed it on the table. Though I haven't told anyone, you should still be careful. The power of Sword Venerable Fudao makes many sects uneasy. They all want to gather information about him. Additionally, here is the book I wrote. Within a month, the book collection hall will start selling it nationwide. You can take a look first. With that, Shenzhen walked out, brushing past him. They were already familiar with each other, so Guan did not see her off. Instead, he went to the desk and picked up the book Shenzhen had written. Supreme Secret Records. It sounded very serious. Guan immediately started to read, but as he continued, his brows began to furrow. Really? He had thought Shenzhen's writing wouldn't surpass Green Hero Travelogue, especially regarding matters between men and women. To his surprise, she wrote in even greater detail. This person acted demure in front of him but wrote so uninhibitedly in private? This content shouldn't be published, right? Guan hoped that the scrutiny of the book collection hall would do its job. Though he was displeased, he continued reading with great interest. This reading lasted the entire night. At dawn, Guan gathered the disciples to begin their exercises. As the number of disciples in the Third Medicine Valley increased, he believed tradition should be maintained, even getting Elder Tian involved. After the exercises, Guan began assigning tasks. He left 3 disciples to sow seeds while the others continued clearing the land. The dense forests around the Third Medicine Valley needed a significant amount of time and effort to transform into cultivable fields. Guan, even without using spells, did not feel tired and even told his disciples that it was also a form of cultivation. In truth, the disciples did not feel tired either and were very motivated. The larger the third medicine valley grew, the more benefits they would receive, as Guan was generous in sharing the medicinal herbs, providing them with more elixirs. Life settled into a peaceful routine. Guan spent most of his time in the third medicine valley, busy with clearing land and sowing seeds. 5 days later, Shenzhen came looking for Guan again, very angry because her book had been rejected by the book collection hall. Guan almost laughed, but he held it in. Shenzhen was very adamant. The more the book collection hall refused to publish her book, the more determined she was to publish it. She decided to print it herself and secretly spread it in the inner sect. Guan advised her to revise it, delete some content, and maybe it would pass, but she didn't listen. Either way, without the help of the book collection hall, Guan believed her book couldn't become popular, easing much of his concern. Winter's snow gradually fell, blanketing the earth in white. At noon, Guan arrived at Tianya Valley. To his surprise, there was an additional person inside the valley, and they had a formidable presence. Luo Hun, sensing Guan's presence, leaped out of the forest like a flying swan, landing in front of him. "You came just in time. Let me introduce you to someone. They were sent by His Majesty. From now on, let them take any medicinal herbs they need to help them break through as soon as possible," Luo Hun said, leading Gu into a distant area with lofts. Guan never coveted the herbs in Tianya Valley. He only wanted to gather them. Afterward, it was up to Li Xiandao to distribute them, as they originally belonged to Li Xiandao. When they reached the loft, the door of a nearby house opened, and a white-robed man stepped out. Yi Luyan, Divinity Transformation Realm, 9 layers 466/1208/2850, Divinity Transformation Realm, 9 layers. His Majesty's forces were not weak either. Yi Luyan looked to be in his early 40s, with an elegant and refined demeanor. His white robe highlighted the charming and reserved temperament typical of a swordsman. From across the wall, Yi Luyan cupped his hands and said, "I am Yi Luyan, a pleasure to meet you, Valley Master." Luo Hun introduced, Senior Yi is the first sword servant by His Majesty's side. His sword Dao accomplishment is among the best in the Taizong dynasty. Only a few in the world can compare in sword Dao, countable on one's fingers. Guan raised his hand in greeting to Luyan. Yi Luyan stared at Guan and asked, "Valley Master, you are also a disciple of the Supreme Sect. Do you know anything about Sword Venerable Fudao? What exactly is his cultivation level?" Sword Venerable Fudao was famed throughout the land, but everyone only knew he had slain Chu Xian of the Void Crossing realm. Few were aware he had also fought Vice Sect leader Ji Hantian. Ji Hantian himself had not mentioned it, as if it had never occurred. "I am merely an outer disciple of the Supreme Sect with limited knowledge. However, there is a remnant of his sword intent on the heavenly repair platform in the outer sect. Senior could take a look." Guessing that this sword cultivator sought a challenge with Sword Venerable Fudao, Guan suggested the platform to make him realize the gap between himself and the Sword Venerable. Indeed, upon learning of Sword Venerable Fudao's sword intent at the Supreme Sect, Yi Luyan's eyes brightened, and he immediately leaped out of the valley, flying through the air. Guan looked at Luo Hun and asked, "Can he go directly to the Supreme Sect?" Luo Hun nodded. He has the Emperor's Sword Servant Order, allowing him unrestricted access to all major sections. Upon hearing this, Guan asked no further questions and headed toward a certain garden area to harvest the nearly ripe medicinal herbs. An ancient hour later, he left Tianya Valley. The new year arrived amid the winter cold. Right after the Lunar New Year, Guan returned to the outer gate. He first requested another batch of high-rank medicinal herb seeds from Jiangqiong and then went to the heavenly repair platform to join in the excitement. Zuijian and his son were still sitting in meditation, seeking sword enlightenment. Guan also saw Yi Luyan. He, too, was meditating near the righteous path words, frowning in deep thought. Guan's gaze shifted above the word, path, and his brow furrowed slightly. Source, web novel. Updated on Envgo. Chapter 70, Righteousness and Demons. I read Fengzhen 5th update. Following Guan's gaze, he saw a man in plain clothes sitting cross-legged above the Dao character. His figure and appearance were unremarkable, and even his aura was ordinary. If it weren't for Guan constantly using lifespan detection, he wouldn't have noticed anything extraordinary about this person. Underworld Demon Emperor, Void Crossing Realm 9th Layer 3847/5700/14000. Turns out he's a demon. Guan knew that demons of the same realm tend to have longer lifespans than cultivators of the human race, but seeing the opponent's 14,000-year lifespan, he couldn't help but be shocked. What cultivation technique has this guy practiced to completely conceal any demon energy, so much so that even he, a great cultivator in the unification realm, couldn't see through it? And most importantly, do demons like to practice swordsmanship? Guan couldn't help but think of his sky dragon, who was also obsessed with the sword Dao. He didn't keep staring at the underworld demon emperor but continued to scan the other figures on the heavenly repair platform. Those who dared to sit and attain sword enlightenment had high cultivations. After all, those in the energy cultivation realm and foundation establishment realm were busy with energy absorption and hadn't reached the point of prolonged meditation and enlightenment. Guan realized he had underestimated the influence of sword Venerable Fudao. Although he hadn't heard of Chu Xian before, with Chu Xian's cultivation he must be famous among the major forces in the immortal cultivation world, especially among great cultivators who were well aware of him. The fall of a void-crossing realm cultivator would undoubtedly shake the dynasty. It seemed he had to keep a low profile for the time being. With the spread of reputation, who knew how many troublesome entities might be attracted? After thoroughly looking at all the people on the heavenly repair platform, Guan left. He had developed the habit of using lifespan detection on anyone he met. Without checking the other's background, he felt uneasy. For the next few years, he planned to farm in peace until the immortal cultivation world forgot about Sword Venerable Fudao. He had already written the book about Sword Venerable Fudao and the Outer Sect scandal. Ji Hantian had been pushing him, and he finished writing it last month. This book wasn't a long novel, just a single volume was enough. Spring warmth blanketed the earth, and everything thrived. In the third Medicine Valley, Gu In and Gu Yu were drinking inside. Your righteousness and demons has spread throughout the Taizong dynasty. Now, no one discusses the Supreme Immortal Venerable, they're all talking about the Supreme Sect and Sword Venerable Fudao, Gu Yu remarked jealously. Ji Xiaoyu sat upright at the table, holding a book. Across from her sat Ji Hantian. How is it? How is this righteousness and demons written? Ji Hantian asked, putting down his teacup. Ji Xiaoyu flipped through the pages as she replied. It's quite good. The narration is immersive and doesn't cover up the Supreme Sect's sins, depicting Chu Xian's hideous face in great detail. But the Outer Sect disciples' unity is also very moving. At least, after reading it, I don't think the Supreme Sect is utterly rotten. I can still feel the foundation and spirit of Taikang's #1 orthodox sect. Ji Hantian's lips curled into a smile. Do you know who Panin is? Ji Xiaoyu remained silent. It's the house servant under your command, Guan. Unexpected, isn't it? Ji Hantian asked with a smile. Ji Xiaoyu said quietly, actually, I already knew, but I didn't expect you to know as well. Grandfather, you didn't make him write this book, did you? It will cause him a lot of trouble. Ji Hantian feigned a cough and said, no worries, I will protect him. Thanks to this book, my influence in the Hall of Elders has increased. Overturning Chu Tianqi might not be impossible in the future. Ji Xiaoyu turned her attention back to the book in her hand, absent-mindedly saying, I actually think the Ji family shouldn't covet the position of sect leader. Things are quite good as they are, dispersed among various sects, not becoming a target. That's because you don't understand how hard it was for me under LV Baishan's pressure before. Otherwise, why would I let you join the Supreme Sect? It's to use your talent to gain face for me, Ji Hantian grumbled, getting agitated at the mention of LV Baishan. You've caused Guan so much trouble. Do you have any compensation for him? Of course I do. I've expanded his medicine valley to 100 miles. Also, you can bring G family's high-rank medicinal herbs to him for planting. I've investigated. This kid indeed has a knack for managing the valley. Moreover, if you get closer to him, he might beautify the G family in the future. I've read the Investiture of the Gods. His portrayal of Ji shows he holds the Ji family in his heart. Ji Hantian spoke earnestly, causing Ji Xiaoyu to frown. Ji Xiaoyu showed a look of dissatisfaction and said, "Grandfather, dealing with people and matters shouldn't be overly calculative." "Silly child, this isn't being calculative, it's a win-win situation." "Why not?" Ji Xiaoyu lowered her head, continuing to read, which made Ji Hantian shake his head. Ji Hantian stood up and said, "The 100 Tribes Conference is approaching. You should prepare to secure the top spot on the Hidden Dragon list." After saying that, he took a step and disappeared into thin air within the room. Ji Xiaoyu didn't get up and kept staring at the book in her hand. March, the spring breeze was cool. One day in the early days of the month, someone from the Ji family came to the third medicine valley, delivering a large batch of medicinal herb seeds to Guin. The lowest grade was rank 4, which made Guin very happy. Before leaving, the Ji family cultivator explicitly and implicitly conveyed that the third miss thought highly of him. These seeds were personally selected by her, and for any future needs, he could approach her. Guin naturally wouldn't refuse and expressed that he would never forget the third miss kindness. Hearing this, the cultivator left satisfied. The Ji family, Guzong, and Jiangqiong were all giving him seeds, which saved Guin quite a bit in costs. He planned to recruit more servant disciples, filling up at least 20 positions, providing each with a demon beast and top-notch treatment. That day, Guin took Elder Tian to the outer Sect city. Elder Tian had volunteered to come, saying he wanted to see the righteous path characters on the heavenly repair platform. Upon arriving at the outer Sect city, the two parted ways. As Guin approached the entrance of the Chores Hall, a male disciple came up to him, whispering, "Taoist friend, I have a treasure here, just 2 low-grade spirit stones." "2? Why don't you just go rob someone?" Guin said irritably, bypassing him directly. That disciple blocked him again, then took a book out of his storage bag, saying mysteriously, "Take a good look. Do you recognize this book?" Many inner sect disciples read it after exiting seclusion. It holds great opportunities within. Guin glanced at it and saw 4 words. The Supreme Secret Records. He directly pushed the other aside, leaving with a word, "Sorry, I read the Investiture of the Gods." The disciple looked at his departing figure, cursing quietly, then sought other people to sell to. An hour later, Guin emerged from the Chores Hall with 11 people in tow, both men and women, all young and looking excited. Guin's ability to recruit so many servant disciples at once indicated his unusual status. Following such a senior, their path in immortal cultivation would surely broaden. He led the servant disciples grandly to the heavenly repair platform. The servant disciples had been curious about the platform for a long time. However, due to their low cultivation, they hadn't dared to come, fearing it would irritate the great cultivators. Guin quickly spotted Elder Tian, who stood below the righteous path characters, watching intently. He glanced in another direction. The underworld demon emperor in the 9th layer of the Void Crossing realm was still there, currently making some gestures with his right hand. Guin watched for 2 breaths and thought to himself, "This isn't the sword move of the Taitsong Divine Shocking Sword? This guy can comprehend sword moves just with sword intent? Too monstrous. No, I need to deepen my connection with the Taitsong Divine Shocking Sword." The mere names of divinity transformation and void crossing made their hearts yearn. "Let's go, it's time to return." Guin patted Elder Tian's shoulder and said. Elder Tian came back to his senses and stood up. As they exchanged glances, Guin felt that Elder Tian had some changes. He instinctively cast a lifespan detection. 8th layer of the energy cultivation realm? How did he suddenly jump 2 layers? How long has it been? Guwen felt astonished in his heart but showed no emotions on his face. He had long premonition that Elder Tian would make a comeback. After all, Elder Tian didn't step down due to defeat, but due to his own mistake. Such a person was likely to return to the peak. An ancient hour later, Guwen and others returned to the third Medicine Valley. He asked Xiaochuan to help arrange these disciples. After Xiaochuan visited the third Medicine Valley a few times, he didn't want to leave. He transferred all the demon creatures he raised there. Guwen cared for him greatly and naturally did not refuse. Among the peers, only Xiaochuan stayed with him. Although Wuxin was his junior disciple, he came late and was not as important as Xiaochuan in his heart. Xiaochuan had been following Guwen since childhood, always obeying. Such a junior disciple he naturally cherished dearly. Guwen knew that in 200 years after the old friends passed away, it would be hard for him to build such relationships with others, so he treasured it very much. After returning to the valley, Elder Tian went alone to meditate under a big tree, contemplating something unknown. The setting sun cast a glow on the mountain top, as Yi Yen waved his spear before the sunset, creating a unique scene that sparked discussions among the new servant disciples. Seasons alternated, and more than 2 years passed quickly. That summer, at the age of 46, Guwen stood at the mountain top, overlooking the mountains and rivers. As far as the eye could see, medicinal fields were everywhere, and one could vaguely see the estate amidst the woods. After spending more than 2 years, Guwen finally managed to plant medicinal herbs across hundreds of miles. As he looked out, his heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment. A figure approached him. It was Xiaochuan. "Senior brother, Yi Yen has left for months. When will we recruit a new servant disciple to fill the vacancy? Our Medicine Valley is too big. With one less person, others need to walk a little more." Xiaochuan asked. Guwen took out the Valley Master token and handed it to Xiaochuan. "You go recruit, let's see your judgment." Upon hearing this, Xiaochuan was thrilled, thanked Guwen, and then hurried down the mountain. Guwen looked towards the outer gate city, sensing a strong sword intent. Someone else succeeded in comprehending sword intent at the heavenly repair platform. In these 2 years, 4 people enhanced their sword intent at the heavenly repair platform, increasing the fame of the platform and sword Venerable Fudao. The heavenly repair platform even became a holy land for sword cultivators under the Taizong dynasty. Sword cultivators from various sects would visit, and the Supreme Sect also showed the demeanor of being the #1 orthodox sect, allowing disciples of other sects to comprehend sword intent. This attitude, along with the spread of righteousness and demons, not only did not harm the Supreme Sect's reputation, but it also rose further. Guwen admired the Hall of Elders every time he thought of this. These people truly had skills, both in power struggles and crisis management. It's no wonder they could become elders. After standing on the mountain top for a while, Guwen turned and descended. 2 years had passed. Most medicinal herbs were still in the growth stage, but his lifespan's growth rate was not slow. He planned to restart his daily routine. Every midnight, invest 5 years of lifespan into cultivation, slowly enhancing cultivation level. The first layer of the unification realm felt somewhat insecure, with more great cultivators at the heavenly repair platform. Who knows when an old monster of the unification realm might appear? As he walked down the mountain, there were more than 20 miles to his pavilion. He strolled daily to appreciate his foundation and never felt tired. Just like now, he enjoyed the scenery along the way, feeling joyful. Half an hour later, Guwen walked along the riverside. A figure descended from the sky, landing behind him. "Long time no see." Leah patted Guwen's shoulder, trying to scare him. Guwen pretended to shiver, as Leah practiced some energy-concealing method, landing silently. "Why are you here? How have you been these years?" Guwen looked at Leah and asked joyfully. Leah proudly said, "Naturally good. After being severely injured by a demon cultivator last time, I started to cultivate diligently. Now I'm not the same as before." "Really, I don't believe it. Wanna compete?" "Forget it, the gap between our realms is too big, it's unfair. You know it." Hee hee. Guwen smiled, thinking to himself, "Brother, it would be unfair to you." They chatted while walking. Leah talked about his experience in the inner sect. Upon entering, he immediately sought the Hall of Elders, but before he got any results, chaos broke out in the outer sect. He was then worried about Guan's safety. He took a day to visit the Mystic Valley to see Guan, but Guan was not there. After confirming Guan's safety, he returned to the inner sect to focus on cultivation. He didn't want to lose again, nor always fight across realms. "Why visit me today?" Guan curiously asked. Leah laughed. "My father asked Li Xuanyu and me to attend the 100 Clans Grand Meeting." Chapter 72, Reincarnation of the Great Power, the Name of Guan, 7th Update. Elder Tian mentioned LV Xian, prompting the disciples to ask questions, wanting to know what kind of person this top genius was. Leah secretly noted down the name, determined to defeat LV Xian in the upcoming competition and prove his own talent. That night, the Third Medicine Valley was lively, even Elder Tian became talkative, laughing frequently. At dawn, Leah bid farewell to Guan. "I'm leaving, wait for me to become famous." Watching Li Ya's departing figure, Guan suddenly felt a bit envious. Leah was always so energetic and ambitious, while Guan always thought a lot before doing anything, considering all factors. But thinking of Li Ya's miserable appearance when injured, his mouth couldn't help but turn up in a smile. Envy is fine, but don't imitate. After Leah left, the disciples of the Third Medicine Valley continued their work. With the territory expanding, daily patrols were needed. Guan returned to Mystic Valley, checked each area, then flew towards Tianya Valley. Along the way, he found a place to secretly convert 5 years of lifespan into cultivation, then continued on his journey. Arriving at Tianya Valley, Guan walked in from the valley entrance. As he climbed the hillside, he saw Yi Luyun and LV Xian sparring in a magical duel. LV Xian wore a red robe, his long hair flowing. At first glance, one might mistake him for a woman. He held a gourd-shaped fan and effortlessly countered Yi Luyun's sword strikes. The two of them moved back and forth in the air, evenly matched. Yi Luyun suppressed his cultivation, otherwise, LV Xian wouldn't stand a chance against him. Guan couldn't resist performing a lifespan detection on LV Xian again. LV Xian, Core Formation Realm, First Layer 75/480/4900. He reached the Core Formation Realm at 30, but his cultivation hadn't advanced in the 45 years since. If not for the impressive lifespan of 4,900 years, Guan would find it hard to believe he was the Supreme Sect's top genius. Except for Ji Xiaoyu, who possessed a primordial Taoist talisman, LV Xian's 4,900-year lifespan was the most impressive talent Guan had seen among the human race. LV Xian didn't seem injured, perhaps he cultivated some miraculous skill like Wuxin? Sun De, Sun Air, and Sun Sen rushed to Guan, very happy because Guan always brought them tasty treats. Although they were demons captured by Luo Hun, Guan never belittled them, so they had a good relationship. "These are 5th-tier spirit fruits, you can only eat one each, don't fight over them." Guan took out 3 large, crimson fruits the size of watermelons and placed them on the ground for the 3 monkey demons to pick. He then walked towards an area of the valley. Today was another harvesting day. With his Medicine Valley expanding, he now had the opportunity to pick herbs daily, which he thoroughly enjoyed. After he finished harvesting, Yi Luyun and LV Xian also stopped sparring and landed. Yi Luyun began evaluating LV Xian's performance, and LV Xian remained humble. "Senior Yi, when are you going to undergo tribulation?" "I'm waiting for you to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao," LV Xian asked expectantly. He spoke seriously, as if he truly believed Yi Luyun could defeat the Sword Venerable. Yi Luyun hesitated and said, "At most half a year. When the time comes, I will go to the Tribulation Crossing Valley of the Supreme Sect to undergo tribulation. As for challenging the Sword Venerable Fudao, let's talk about it later." Ever since he visited the Heavenly Repair Platform, he had given up the idea of competing with Sword Venerable Fudao. The gap was too great. Facing such sword intent, he couldn't muster any fighting spirit. LV Xian raised his eyebrows, his delicate face showing anticipation. He continued to persuade, "Give it a try, what if you win? Once you reach the void-crossing realm, your sword intent will naturally transform. You might have the strength to fight, and being the first to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao, even if you lose, you'll become famous." Passing by, Guwen wanted to retort. LV Xian really had a problem. Ever since he came to Tianya Valley, he had been persuading Luo Hun to challenge the Supreme Sect's top gun, and urging the 3 monkey demons to challenge the nearby third-tier Great Demon. It wasn't occasionally. Whenever he encountered someone, he would persuade them. If this guy truly loved fighting, Leah would have heard of him long ago. "I'll think about it." Yi Luyun frowned. LV Xian saw Guwen and immediately approached, warmly putting his arm around Guwen's shoulder, smiling, "Valley Master, I feel you're not ordinary either. Do you want to strive for the position of National Master? I can teach you spells, just say what you want to learn." Guwen replied, "I've said many times, I don't want to strive for anything, I just want to grow flowers and plants." "How is that possible? As long as you're human, you have something you want to strive for." "Then what do you want to strive for?" "Naturally, to be the number 1 in the world." "Then why not spend the time you use to persuade others on cultivating?" "I don't need to cultivate. Sooner or later, I'll be invincible." "You're impressive then." "What a bragger. Daring to claim invincibility in front of me?" Guwen suddenly had an idea and smiled. "I heard you want to participate in the 100 races competition. If you can win the championship, I'll learn your spells." "Really? Really? I didn't originally plan to participate, but since you said that, wait and see. I'll leave tomorrow." LV Xian finished speaking and walked towards his house. Guwen watched his back, finding him hard to figure out. Chapter 73. Perhaps you are a genius. Mad Swordsman wants to pass on magic. Is there a problem? Guwen couldn't help but roll his eyes and said helplessly, "Next time, wait until I finish speaking before making a decision. Aren't you giving me hope only to extinguish it with your own hands?" Shenzhen shook her head and said, "The problem doesn't come from the Sword Sect, but from the Dao Tian Sect. The hateful Heaven Divine Sword is not just a forbidden swordsmanship of the Sword Sect, it is a forbidden technique throughout the Great Yu dynasty. Every time the hateful Heaven Divine Sword appears, there will be a bloody storm. 100 years ago, someone mastered the hateful Heaven Divine Sword and killed tens of thousands of people. He was severely injured by our sect's elders and eventually fled the Great Yu dynasty. The hateful Heaven Divine Sword is a swordsmanship that can break through heavenly destiny. The stronger the hatred, the stronger the sword intent. Even someone with mediocre talent can break through the limitations of their spirit roots as long as their hatred is intense enough. However, as the realm gets higher and the hatred deepens, it is easy to deviate and become a demon that only knows killing. Hence, the Sword Sect forbids anyone from practicing it." Hearing this, Guwen couldn't help but ask, "In that case, why did the Sword Sect create such swordsmanship?" "It was created by a genius from the Sword Sect. Since he was from the Sword Sect naturally has the responsibility to handle this matter. They have destroyed all the sword manuals, but the hateful Heaven Divine Sword keeps appearing. Perhaps that person scattered the sword manuals throughout the immortal cultivation world before he died," Xinzhen answered. Guwen frowned. Would practicing this swordsmanship lead to madness in the end? If that were true, Guwen couldn't let Su Han continue. He couldn't favor his disciple at the cost of bringing calamity to the immortal cultivation world. Shenzhen spoke earnestly, "The various sects of the Great Yu dynasty all resist the hateful Heaven Divine Sword. If you insist on protecting him, it will only bring endless trouble. There is another way. Make him discard the hateful Heaven Divine Sword in front of the Sword Sect. But discarding the swordsmanship isn't just a matter of forgetting it. It requires abolishing his meridians and spirit root, turning him into a mortal." Guwen nodded and said, "I understand." He didn't say any more, bowed to Shenzhen, and then left. Shenzhen watched his departing figure, slightly shaking her head, not advising further. She believed what she had said was clear enough. The next day at noon, Guan arrived at the outer Sect city. Last night, he invested 100 years of his lifespan from 10,000 miles away, significantly increasing his cultivation. The trouble caused by Su Han made him increase his daily lifespan investment, striving to reach the 9th layer of the unification realm as soon as possible. On the way to the Yilan mansion, Guan was contemplating the matter of Su Han. Su Han was his disciple. He had to help, but he couldn't help irrationally. Moreover, judging from Shenzhen's words, practicing the hateful heaven divine sword was not good for Su Han. It would eventually lead to madness. It was a painful path. Thinking it over, Guan decided to let Su Han choose for himself. He could only help him once at most. At the same time, he was pondering another issue. If he invested 10,000 years of his lifespan in the hateful heaven divine sword, could he research a way to improve it so that it no longer led to deviation? But that was a matter for the future. Even if he created it now, the sword sect wouldn't believe him. He couldn't demonstrate it himself, could he? He wouldn't fully expose himself for Su Han. Though they had the title of master and disciple, he didn't owe Su Han anything. An hour later, Guan and Yilan walked out from the law enforcement hall's gate. Since he is determined, brother, you shouldn't interfere anymore. No one in this world should be responsible for another person's life entirely. I will arrange for him to leave the Supreme Sect quietly, Yilan said. Guan nodded. He had negotiated with Su Han for a long time, but Su Han refused to give up the hateful heaven divine sword, even if Guan promised he wouldn't have to abolish his cultivation. Su Han still wouldn't give up. Su Han said that the hateful heaven divine sword was passed down by his father. It was the only connection between them, and he wanted to use it to avenge his father. After such a declaration, Guan could only give up. Thank you for your trouble. Guan nodded to Yilan. After a brief conversation, Guan left. Walking on the street, watching the bustling crowd, Guan felt quite emotional. Lu Jiojia had strayed from the righteous path for his own way and ended up crippled, now only able to cultivate the Taoist expansion skill in Mystic Valley with Wuxin, hoping for a chance to rise again. Su Han pursued revenge, willing to be at odds with the immortal cultivation world without regret. Guan was strong, but he couldn't decide the paths of everyone around him, nor could he change their thoughts. The mortal world was full of entanglements, all because of grudges and emotions. As Guan pondered, he seemed to gain an understanding, entering a marvelous state. Unknowingly, he arrived at the heavenly repair platform. He accidentally bumped into someone, quickly coming back to his senses. Sorry. Guan quickly apologized, filled with surprise. It was his first time falling into such an engrossed state. He hadn't encountered such a state when inheriting cultivation techniques or spells before. Recalling it, he couldn't explain it clearly, but he felt a slight change within himself. Were you comprehending the path just now? The person Guan bumped into suddenly asked. Guan looked at him. It was a man in green clothes with a weathered face, carrying a sword box with 3 sword hilts protruding from the top. Guan instinctively used lifespan detection. Han Ming, 5th level of Void Crossing Realm 587/1902/2780. This person also cultivated the energy concealing technique. The immortal cultivation world was full of tricksters. Guan asked in surprise, "What is path enlightenment?" "I was just thinking about something." He thought to himself, it's better not to think about things while walking in the future, it might cause trouble. Han Ming fixed his gaze on him and said, "Path enlightenment is indeed thinking about something. In deep contemplation, one resonates with nature and the universe, entering a marvelous state. You don't need to apologize, I deliberately blocked your way. If you continued forward, you would have bumped into those great cultivators." Is path enlightenment amazing? But I didn't feel any change in my cultivation level, Guan asked, half true and half false. He pretended to be ignorant, but in reality he didn't understand path enlightenment. Han Ming turned around, looking at the words righteous path in the distance, and said, "Path enlightenment is very rare. It cannot be taught or predicted, relying entirely on one's comprehension and blessing. Some break through realms through path enlightenment, some create astonishing ultimate skills through it. I once comprehended the path and created my own swordsmanship. Although I don't know what you were comprehending, you will feel its benefits in the future. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. May I ask your name? Guan raised his hand and asked respectfully. Han Ming answered, I am Han Ming, from the Great Yu Dynasty. I came specifically to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao. Hearing this, Guan couldn't help but ask, how does Senior plan to challenge? Han Ming gathered his breath and suddenly shouted, I am Han Ming, a sword cultivator from the Great Yu Dynasty. I have come to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao's Sword Dao. 1 month from now, I will have a sword competition outside the city. If Sword Venerable Fudao wins, I am willing to carve my Sword Dao on the city walls for the disciples of the Supreme Sect to cultivate. If Sword Venerable Fudao loses or doesn't dare to come, I will add 2 more words next to the righteous path. This voice was earth-shattering, echoing throughout the city and spreading far, reaching even the disciples of the Third Medicine Valley, who all looked up. Countless gazes from the heavenly repair platform focused on Han Ming. Guan instinctively retreated, not wanting to be associated with Han Ming. However, Han Ming walked towards Guan. Don't come over. Guan was very helpless. Young friend, may I invite you to your residence to discuss path enlightenment? We can exchange enlightenment experiences. Cultivators of different realms had their current lifespan increase with higher realms, but each major realm didn't have a standard lifespan limit, since lifespan was related to state, cultivation techniques, natural treasures, and so on. Like Li Xiandao, clearly in the divinity transformation realm, but some in the nascent soul realm had similar lifespans as him. Or Ji Xiaoyu, who had over 800 years of lifespan in the 9th layer of foundation establishment, comparable to Li Xiandao in the 8th layer of the divinity transformation realm. If a person was seriously injured, their lifespan would change accordingly, like Elder Tian and Lu Jiujia. People weren't just data, their values weren't fixed. He could only observe more. After Han Ming finished, he asked Guan to talk about his path enlightenment experience. This time, Guan didn't hide anything and honestly shared his worries, only leaving out the hateful Heaven Divine Sword. When he finished, Han Ming pondered and said, worrying about your disciples' safety, realizing you can't control others' destinies, that's your path enlightenment. You might be a genius. In a month, I will compete in a sword contest with Sword Venerable Fudao, and I might die. How about I teach you all my Sword Dao within this month? What do you think? After reaching the 5th level, each level required 3,000 years of lifespan to break through, which was related to the spiritual energy in his environment. It was acceptable to him, considering that advancing from the 9th level of the Void Crossing realm to the 1st level of the Unification realm had cost him over 12,000 years. Seeing that he still had over 200,000 years of lifespan left, Guan felt joyful and began to enjoy the elevation of his realm. The forest trembled, and strong winds blew from all directions. Green waves of qi arose from the ground beneath him. Roar, a deafening roar resounded from afar. It was a demon beast howling. Guan was secretly alarmed. The aura of this demon beast was no weaker than the divinity transformation realm. Such a terrifying demon creature was hidden in this area. Fortunately, he hadn't come this far for his previous breakthroughs, lest he be eaten by a demon monster, which would have been extremely unfortunate. Soon, more demon beasts began to howl, one after another, their voices growing in number. The combined roars seemed to be capable of overturning the night sky. The night sky was filled with swirling dark clouds, obscuring the stars and the moon, making it unclear whether it was clouds or demon energy. At that moment, Guan felt as if he were in a demon domain or a magic realm. The howls and cries of demons and monsters surrounded him from all sides, chilling and horrifying. The forest ahead shook violently, as if it might uproot at any moment. In the darkness behind the mountains, a colossal mountain began to move. With his sharp vision, Guwen could see it was a giant demon, at least 300 feet high, resembling a turtle carrying a mountain on its back. As it moved forward, dust flew everywhere. Guwen saw numerous wandering ghosts circling around the mountain, like a following army. No wonder the Taizong dynasty couldn't eradicate all the demons and ghosts in the world despite having cultivators. Along the way, Guwen's divine sense had picked up the sounds of villagers in the mountains, confirming he hadn't yet left the Taizong dynasty. The Taizong dynasty was vast, seemingly even larger than Earth in his previous life. With such expansive territory, it was teeming with countless demons and ghostly creatures. The other 8 dynasties were probably not much smaller than the Taizong dynasty, but as Shenzhen said, the lands of the 9 dynasties together only occupied a small corner of this continent. This world was indeed immeasurably vast. Inexhaustible earth spirit energy flowed into Guwen's body, continuously enhancing his cultivation. No wonder advancing from the 1st to the 9th level of the unification realm had consumed 18,000 years of lifespan. The amount of spiritual energy required for this process was enormous. Compared to his previous breakthroughs, the speed at which he absorbed spiritual energy had increased several times, yet the breakthrough time had still lengthened. Normal cultivators in the unification realm never made such a large commotion while breaking through because they accumulated energy slowly and did not devour the spiritual energy required for future centuries and millenniums in a short time. Guwen waited patiently. Time passed quickly. As dawn broke, the first ray of sunlight pierced the sky. The sky was full of demon clouds, and the forest was shrouded in demon energy, like a dense fog. Guwen sat beneath the tree in meditation and suddenly opened his eyes. The 9th level of the unification realm, complete. Reaching this level, he clearly felt a significant enhancement in his divine sense and senses, even feeling his heart condensing spiritual power, as though something was about to grow. The rate at which he devoured Earth's spirit energy began to slow down. Guwen felt 100 times stronger compared to before. The 9th level of the unification realm was not something the 1st level could compare to. Guwen didn't believe any cultivator at the 1st level of the unification realm could kill him across realms. At that thought, he broke into a cold sweat. Almost ruined his Taoist heart. He couldn't think this way. Those who were killed across realms probably had this kind of mindset. He couldn't underestimate anyone and had to be mentally prepared for the possibility of being ambushed. Only then could he give it his all. Chapter 75. Exaggerated Limit Lifespan. Guwen takes a disciple. Once his cultivation level was completely stabilized, Guwen closed the lifespan barrier. This time, the lifespan barrier consumed over 8,000 years. At this rate, activating the lifespan barrier would sooner or later become a huge expenditure. He still needed to work hard to earn more lifespan. Although he appeared wealthy now, if he wanted to make a comprehensive improvement, the lifespan would not be enough. Guwen stood up, stretched lazily, and then touched his chest. The unification realm seemed like a transition, unlike the previous stages that had phases, but this transition was a great test of his cultivation accumulation. Guwen could feel that the next realm was related to the heart, and the thing condensing on his heart was a sign. It was just that he couldn't determine what it specifically would be for now. He began to move forward. It was still the infinite traceless mystic heaven step, and he moved continuously, covering hundreds of miles with each step. Meanwhile, he spread out his divine sense, carefully feeling the differences in the 9 layers of the unification realm. Suddenly, Guwen stopped walking. His eyes turned in one direction, and his brows furrowed slightly. He hesitated for a moment, but still moved towards that direction. By a small river in the mountains, a boy covered in blood and mud stood in front of a mountain wall. He held a large stone in his hand, and behind him stood a girl in a similar state of disarray, looking at the front in terror. On the opposite side of the river, a Qinghong tall wolf demon emerged from the forest. It walked upright, its deep black fur glistening. Despite the morning light, Its eyes shone with a terrifying gleam. The wolf demon opened its mouth, exhaling a thick breath while staring fixedly at the two in front. The boy trembled in fear but still bravely took a step forward. Neither of them noticed a figure appearing on the mountaintop behind them. It was Guan. Guan had temporarily changed into a white robe and wore a specially made mask. This was something he crafted in his spare time, containing restrictions to isolate divine sense probing. The breeze blew Guan's robe as he looked at the two people below, casting a lifespan detection upon them. Gooden, non-ranked 12/99/9999. Little Flower, non-ranked 12/78/230, a lifespan limit of 9,999 years? Guan doubted his eyes. This broke Ji Xiaoyu's record among the human race. Could it be that this boy also had a primordial Taoist talisman within him? At that moment, the wolf demon suddenly pounced on the boy named Gooden. Guan waved his hand, and a beam of sword chi fell between the wolf demon and Gooden. Stones flew and water splashed, terrifying the wolf demon into immediate retreat, turning around and fleeing. Dust blew in their faces, causing Gooden to shut his eyes and cough. When the dust settled, he opened his eyes wide to see a half-zhang wide, 100-zhang long crack by the riverbank as if slashed by a giant sword. Footsteps came from the side, frightening Gooden into a shudder. He turned around quickly and saw Guan. Although Guan appeared human, the mask he wore led Gooden to retain his grip on the stone. "Are you a human or a demon?" Gooden cautiously asked, his voice weak and still trembling. Guan spoke, "Naturally human, otherwise why would I save you?" He changed his voice to sound old and weary, as if in his 40s or 50s. Upon hearing this, Gooden let out a sigh of relief but did not put down the stone, making Guan's eyes flash with admiration. "Where is your home? I will take you back." Guan continued. Gooden fell silent immediately upon hearing this. At this moment, Little Flower behind him suddenly burst into tears. "My parents were eaten by the demon," she said intermittently, sobbing. Her emotional outburst made Gooden's eyes turn red as well. Then, Gooden recounted their experiences. A group of demons attacked their village, devouring all the adults and taking the children to this area. They saw their companions turned into soup every day. Last night, it was supposed to be their turn, but the mountain suddenly shook, and the demon guards ran out. At dawn, they escaped the cave but found no trace of the demons and started fleeing. Not long after, they were targeted by the wolf demon on its way. Guan listened in silence. It was his first true encounter with the hardships of the mortal world. He was born in the Ji family, never experiencing the threat of demons, and later went to the Supreme Sect, smoothly advancing by seizing lifespan. Compared to him, these two children had it incredibly tough. Guan felt a sense of compassion, but Gooden's exaggerated lifespan prevented him from taking them back. Such an extreme lifespan, if they pursued immortal cultivation, would definitely bring endless troubles. Guan even suspected that Gooden possessed a great fortune. Thus, his entire family perished, except for him. Just as he was about to be eaten, Guan broke through this area. Just as the wolf demon was about to catch him, Guan saved him. All these coincidences coming together meant it was no coincidence. A child of fate? Seeing that these two were already orphans with no kin to rely on, Guan couldn't bear it. After thinking it over, Guan decided to first take them to a safe place. He appeared behind Gooden in a single step, picked him up, then went to Little Flower and lifted her as well, moving quickly. Frightened by his movement technique, they stopped crying and stiffened. After 10 breaths of time, in a forest, Guan stopped and gently placed them on the ground. He took out a bottle of elixir from his storage bag and poured half into each of their mouths. Gooden had already fully embarked on the path of immortal cultivation, while Little Flower had yet to cultivate any spiritual power. Typically, with a 5-spirit root qualification, it took a month to cultivate spiritual power, so Guan wasn't disappointed with Little Flower. At dawn, Guan prepared to leave. "Gooden, I am going out. I will return by evening. Take good care of your junior sister." Guan instructed. Guden opened his eyes and quickly stood up, nervously asking, "Master, will you really come back? Don't leave us. I promise not to shout anymore." Little Flower also opened her eyes upon hearing this, stood up, and rushed over, holding Guan's waist to prevent him from leaving. Guan found it amusing but maintained a stern tone. "I am going to slay demons. Do you want to burden your master by coming along?" Hearing this, Little Flower immediately let go. Guden's eyes darted, and he said, "Master, we are also cultivating immortality now. How about giving us new names?" He believed that having new names was significant, and being named by their master would strengthen the relationship. Guan hesitated for a moment. He raised his right hand, pointing his finger towards the ground, inscribing words with sword chi. Guden quickly ran over to watch by his side. Although from a mountain village, a teacher there had taught them, so he could barely recognize the words. After Guan finished writing, Guden couldn't help asking, "And what? Master, what's the last word?" "Your name isn't Hao. Hao means sky, hoping you could become the sky for your junior sister and pave your own path to the heavens. As for Little Flower, her name is now an Exin. I hope she can live in peace and be content with what she has." Guan said calmly and disappeared into thin air after speaking. Renamed and Hao, Guden looked up, already unable to see Guan's figure. He immediately squatted down, gazing at his new name, muttering, "And Hao, Hao." He seemed intent on remembering the word Hao. An Exen squatted beside him, accompanying him in looking at the words on the ground. On the other side, Guan hurried towards the Supreme Sect. When he returned to Mystic Valley, Wuxin was still leading disciples in training. He walked from the valley entrance and saw many cultivators flying across the sky. Evidently, the disturbance the previous night had alerted the Supreme Sect. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.